Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 10th of September, 2017. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
The weather report says it's raining. It's not
and Robert Kemp.
My beer report says it's overflowing and I haven't been paying attention.
It's not really overflowing that much.
I don't know, there's quite a bit of spillage. Like, it's still going, look at it. I might need to get some tissues.
Okay.
Enjoy this podcast.
Did he pour it wrong, Zeg?
He didn't pour it at all, really. That's the problem. Coming out of the bottle.
Oh, he's drinking from bottle and too shaken. Is that the issue?
Yes.
Deary me. Do you ever have these problems, Zeg?
No.
With your many beers that you open?
I don't even have that problem with like Coke or anything because I don't even really drink that any longer.
You don't drink Coke anymore?
Do you not drink any carbonated drinks?
My teeths. Too much sugar. It's just all sugar.
Is the dentist telling you not to?
Well, I'm choosing not to because my dentist tells me not to have as much sugar. And I'm like, yeah, well, I guess I don't really drink Coke that much anyway, so I could refrain from drinking it that often.
So it's an event drink?
Yeah, exactly.
You drink it when you're here. You drink my Coke. That's how that works.
Well,
Yeah.
The Coke here is like Coke Zero anyway, so you know.
Yeah, I guess. Depends if the sugar-freeness is better than the aspartame or whatever the hell it is that they make it taste not crappy. Oh, stop it, beer! Look at you go!
Just fucking drink some of it.
Yeah.
You should drink it.
Mmm.
Oh, no, it all came out of Rob's mouth.
Fail.
Yep,
Great success.
That exploded a little more. Right, I might just have to keep tabs on this.
Just
Oh my
pour it in a
God.
glass or something, I don't know.
What kind of beer is it? Can you read the
Stick on the
labels
waypoint
there?
cable as well. This is not...
I am drinking a very volatile Hare's Hopping from the Two Rivers Brewery.
Okay, where's that?
Let's find out. Here comes our beer
Next
review.
to Two Rivers, presumably.
Very
It is-
specific.
In Denver, Norfolk.
Okay. Denver? Never heard of
Apparently
Denver.
there's a Denver in Norfolk.
There's a
yeah.
Denver in Norfolk. Okay.
Not that Denver.
Not the one in Colorado. The one
No.
in Norfolk. Probably the one in Colorado is named after the one in Norfolk.
Perhaps I should have read the warning on the side here that said allowed to settle before opening. Although I had just got it out of the cupboard. I'd assume it's been there for months, so I assumed it settled then.
What does that mean, allowed to settle before?
Allowed to settle.
But before pouring? Or before opening?
Before opening.
Right, so you have to... Do they mean after you've moved it? Wait.
I guess,
Open.
yeah.
Okay, so you can't just
Yeah, but-
take it out of the cupboard and open it. You have to take it out of the cupboard, put it where you intend to open it, leave it, then come back and open it.
One can only assume, that's gone on my nose. No, I was laughing
my
too
God.
much. I've now got fizzy beer bubbles in my nose. Oh.
Maybe next time you could just open it while it's in the cupboard before you move
Yeah.
it. Well, then, and if it goes everywhere, you're going to be in trouble.
This is true. Ah, shit. I should have read its bottle conditioned. I was supposed to have poured this anyway.
I think that's fairly evident.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink that kind of beer out of a bottle. Yeah, definitely for pouring. Get a proper head on that.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, glass. This isn't going to stop.
plan.
It's still
Good
going.
plan.
It's still going. How
I
is
think
it?
I only drink lager out of bottles. In fact, I don't really like drinking pints of lager. I prefer it out of bottles.
Just because of reduced quantity?
Yeah, that.
But you don't
partially.
want the whole pint.
No, because it's too
Just
gassy
have a
and
bit
stuff. Whereas normal beer, like ale or whatever, or pale ale or whatever, it's better in a glass. Top tip.
Moving on from Rob's beer situation, now that he's gone into his kitchen, let's talk about my kitchen. Because we got a
Kitchen
new
bitchin'.
toaster.
Oh, yeah?
Old toaster was completely fucked, as I mentioned last time, and it continued to get worse. There was the one day in particular where it randomly, because it got to the point where basically one half of it didn't work. Or not even one half, it's like one side of both slices, I guess.
Okay.
Like the outer edge of the toaster wasn't working, so only one side of both slices would get toasted.
Got toasted. Okay.
And then it also had one day where that got even worse than that, where basically I'd set it down to my normal setting of like real low, where I always have it, and it toasted only one side of the bread, but it like literally burnt the side that it was toasting, and the other side was virtually untouched on my normal setting. And I was like, well, that's gone horribly wrong.
Wait, is this on your new toaster?
No, it's the old one.
Oh, the old toaster, okay.
You got the new one now. I haven't actually had toast in that toaster yet. It's new like today.
I was about to say that would be a pretty damning toaster review if you immediately got your new one and it's like, all right, let's give this a go. Oh, one side has burnt.
The new one looks like it has quite thin slots, and I don't know if it's going. It looks like you maybe like you can push the metal bits apart when you insert the toast. Maybe like it has the metal holder bit that encloses the bread to hold it in place or whatever.
Oh right,
and those, you can push them apart slightly, but they by default they look quite thin.
Oh right, so they don't clamp when you put the toast in.
Doesn't look like it.
Right,
they might just be spring loaded.
Weird.
Maybe, I don't know. Haven't tested it yet. And I also have to find out how low do I have to turn this one with this fresh, fully powered toaster.
Full power toaster.
And I was like, why didn't we get a new kettle? Because our kettle is old and sucks.
Yeah, they sort of
takes like 5 minutes to actually boil.
You can get those in like pairs, can't you? Like,
sometimes you get like a deal, don't you, by getting both the.
Well, get both Morphy Richards toaster and kettle set for major discounts.
Is that the Morphy Richards guy?
For major discounts. My name's Morphy Richards.
But instead, we just got a random descaling for the kettle, which makes it boil slightly quicker, but
a random descaling, so it only descales random parts of it.
It'd be nice if it boiled faster. It's like I when I was talking about it, it's like I don't need a fast boil kettle or anything, like one of those just push button instant hot water or anything.
You have patience.
It's just like a kettle that doesn't take like fucking forever.
So how do you rate my kettle in the terms of like length to boil? What do
I'm trying to? Your
normal.
kettle seems like an average kettle.
An average kettle. That's fine. I'll take average. It is a Morphy Richards.
Well, naturally, always.
It matches the toaster.
Except, not really.
Well, they're from the same range, but they weren't bought at the same time. I didn't get the massive deal.
They're like several years of design apart.
yeah. Bought by vouchers from somewhere.
Naturally.
I think so. One of, even over, I got like vouchers from work or something one year, and it was like, oh, we'll buy a toaster with that. Thanks, work.
And all other house-related news, I guess, all of the outside of our windows got painted.
Great.
Yep.
How does light get in now? After
Light
that,
blue.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, what? Light blue? But apparently it looks quite good with the brickwork, and I'm like, I don't know about that really, but whatever.
If you're going for that brick beach hut vibe.
So have you got your window back in your room then?
Yes.
Hooray!
They were in fact installed by the time I got home after the last one.
Good stuff.
So it was okay. Now I just need to paint the inside of the windows. Because the inside of my windows is kind of... It's because of the... I like in the wall of my room, there's just like a major crack running down it, I guess. Not that major. Fairly major.
What, in the brickwork outside, or like just in?
I think it's just the whole house. It's just like one bit of it that is like, because obviously our house is made of two halves anyway. So for a start, it's completely different construction-wise in one half to the other. And then if you think about
wasn't it three with the extension?
Well, yeah. And then it's like if you think about where my room is, the newest part, that's like basically crossing over between. Well, no, I guess that's not crossing over between the two halves. I guess that's all on one half.
What?
Like
I don't understand.
The only part of the separation between the original two halves that our house is made of would have been at the left-hand side of the staircase. So it's only like the front room and the upstairs bedroom. So then the room that I'm in only is attached to the other half, I guess, because it's like an L shape.
Fascinating.
Yes, but yeah, it still has a giant crack in it.
Okay.
Although there's a lot of weird structural weirdness about that house.
Structural weirdness.
Like my old bedroom had like the floor sagged in at one end,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
and that had to get
Yeah, it
fixed
did,
at some
yeah.
point.
Has that been fixed then?
Yeah, for quite a while. And also, just like we're right next to a railway, so everything just gradually shakes apart over time. Vibrations.
Especially from the big freight train at like 2 in the morning or whatever it is.
Or the occasional earthquake. Not
Very
really
occasional.
distinguishable from a train.
You have your own regular earthquakes.
Yeah,
They're probably about the same power as
yeah,
the
pretty
actual
much.
earthquake.
That's why I might take a long time to realise that it's an earthquake. But like, sounds like a train. Oh wait, it's not.
I suppose neither of you have had to replace broken bathroom extractor fans.
We very
haven't done
nearly did. There's one of them who keeps like very nearly jamming up.
No, we've got 2 that don't work.
Your shitty new house.
Yeah, my terribly built new house. I don't know. It's still standing. It's 7 or 8 years old now. It's still alive.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'll move
Just
out
all
before
the
it falls
stuff
over.
inside.
Like, just imagine how old my house is, or maybe half
Or
of
might
it.
be.
It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
Some percentage of it. Probably from at least the 30s, maybe.
Do you
Yeah,
think?
sounds about right.
Is it a
Yeah.
30s?
Yeah, I
house?
reckon it might be.
Maybe. Yeah.
Old.
Well,
Jigged.
Yes, rejigged, severely
most of-
rejigged.
quite a lot of British houses are from that time. I don't know why they built them all in the 30s.
Because they needed somewhere to put all the people
The people.
All the
who
Population
weren't in
explosion.
London.
Well, yeah, I guess like,
Everyone moved out.
or was it like the end of the war happened and everyone was like, we've got to repopulate,
Yeah,
All of
yeah,
us.
could be.
and so they all got a bit frisky, and then went a bit too far, so we had to build new houses.
That definitely
Is that
happened
how
at the end of. It definitely happened at the end of World War II. I don't know about World War One. Probably the same. Yeah,
Maybe
baby boomers Mark One.
the original boomers.
Original boomers.
One's from Left 4 Dead 1. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Ah,
So yeah, I've got to fix those extractors, which means you probably can't take a dump in the downstairs bathroom because that smells like
You
going.
could.
I
it's
mean,
gonna
you
smell
could.
everywhere,
Not like the toilet's fucked up.
No,
like
I mean-
your
I mean-
other house.
which it has been. Which it has been.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's technically, yeah, I mean, you could, yeah, it's just perfectly fine. It just might be slightly unpleasant for a bit longer than you intend. It's like a room with no windows, isn't it? That downstairs, it's like one of those crappy like. It's a crap room. Yeah, it's a crappy room.
It's a room for crapping.
But yeah, so that seems to be quite a modern house thing, isn't it? We have the pointless little downstairs bathroom, or mostly pointless little
not
downstairs
pointless.
bathroom. And
It's
but
convenient for when you're
it
watching.
would be more convenient as a
movies.
cloakroom for us. Like if we didn't have the bog in there.
It would be more convenient if, in the majority of these houses in this new area, the downstairs bathroom actually worked fully. Because it does seem like a lot of the time that was the problem. Like even that one's not the best in terms of flushing successfully.
That one's all right. It was more that the whole plumbing underneath the house was problematic.
that's what causes
Yeah.
that problem.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
When we got that, and we did get that sorted a few years back. Still makes funny noises sometimes when the dishwasher decides to empty. For some reason, that seems to be the thing that causes extremely loud blah 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 noises.
Gurgling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, where bits of poo would return. That happened.
Definitely don't want that.
All these houses around here seem to have terrible plumbing.
Oh, the modern plumbing sucks.
Yep.
Like, I think the actual internal plumbing is fine. It's just the stuff they put in the foundations seems to be like the cheapest, least thought through thing. Like they barely put a slope in ours.
Yeah.
Like the slope was kind of the critical part of it.
Well,
So the work they did to ours was to actually just make the slope deeper.
that's the thing about plumbing is where you don't really consider it normally. Where it's just like, how the fuck do you even plan for that? Like, because you can't, everything can't go downhill at a certain point. like every house in the vicinity goes down like 20 centimeters or something, and then the actual main pipe has to go down further. It's like you just keep going down the further away you get from every house, and it's like that can't actually be how that works. At some point, there has to be like pumps or something.
Yeah, I have no idea. Don't know how sewers work. Maybe they all do just go down.
Because if you think about like where I live, we're right in the bottom of the valley. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's the sewage plant on the river, so presumably it just goes down to there, and
Yeah.
that's quite local. But like, how do you deal with a valley that doesn't just have a sewage plant in it?
Yeah, where does most of a busy town go? Straight in the lake, I suppose.
I wouldn't have thought so.
I got no idea.
How do you pump sewage before it's processed?
Well, carefully.
I think it'd be like if you have fun imagining this. If you imagine, it's probably not like a pump. It's probably more like a series of scoops.
Oh, just shovels.
Yeah. I mean, that's still technically quite a lot like a pump. It's probably just like real slow. Like the blades aren't moving very quickly. It's just like wedging it.
Ew. This is delightful.
Yep.
That's probably accurate. Or do they just rely on there being enough of it coming through the pipe that it
Yeah,
pushes
but that didn't
it
work
through?
for your house, did it?
No, it's because well, the bulk of the problem, and pun intended slightly, was that like the slope wasn't enough for paper to slide through the junction.
Well, yes, but that's like you're not going to avoid that problem, are you?
No, but it like caught because of the way that like we've got like a I guess a combiner bit in down one of those manholes in my garden where like 3 pipes come into one, and it's like because of the way something to do with the way that thing is ridged or the way that thing holds together that like paper just got stuck in the ridges.
Yeah,
and then
it's not
there
like-
was never enough water pressure to push it along, so it just
toilet
built
paper
up and
is
built
like
up.
more structurally sound than poop.
Sure, but you put a lot of things down the toilet. Poo, paper, goldfish. It's like it's got
That would be the thing that you'd expect to jam it out. Like
Just-
bones stuck in stuff.
Yeah. The horrendous goldfish massacre of 1963. The whole plumbing network stopped. Get rid of your goldfish. Humanely.
Except not.
Man, you would need to flush quite a lot of goldfish to actually block up the sewer, I
Yeah.
reckon. Even your sewer. That really would be a
Even
massacre. I reckon paper probably gets more stuck more easily than goldfish. Goldfish has got to be slippery,
I guess.
unless they've started decaying over.
They do say you shouldn't use quilted toilet paper. Apparently that's real bad.
So how they
What,
say a
for
lot
the
of things
sewage?
about toilet paper.
Yeah, because it doesn't like because they make it out of thicker stuff and something to do with how that paper is sort of weaved together that it doesn't fall apart very easily.
Interesting.
And so cheap toilet paper may be better for your sewers, but bad for your ass.
What a dilemma. The modern dilemma.
Yeah. Arse or plumbing?
What are we talking about? This is a podcast about
Definite-
video games.
So there could be a sewage management video game.
Okay, that's true. I'm sure there probably is. I mean, I've put down plenty of water pipes in SimCity.
Yeah, but they're just water pipes. There's no sewage network in
Yeah,
Sim
that's
City.
true.
There is in some of them, sort of. I mean, the most recent SimCity 5 has sewage as a
Does
not
it?
technically separate, but it's shown as separate.
Right.
It's
What,
still-
you could have a sewage overlay
Yeah.
rather than a pipe
You
network.
lay down the same pipe, but the sewage also travels along as a separate overlay, so you can see if it's blocked up at the outlets.
All right.
And the same applies with City Skylines as well.
But in SimCity, I thought everything travelled on the roads in the modern one, doesn't it? You don't need to lay
but
any
that's
sewage.
that's
around.
counted as the pipes.
Ah, I see, yeah.
Like when you're in the underground view, it's just like, yeah, there's pipes under there as well.
And electrical cables, apparently.
Yeah.
Or unless, I suppose, graphically they're represented as like being on poles and strung along the
I
road.
don't know if they are.
Is your poop powering the city? Is that how this works? Is there some
Only in
kind
city
of...
skylines.
Okay.
You can exploit the water system because of the way the intakes suck up water and the outflow pipes actually produce water, so you can actually move water around. So if you just build an artificial dammed area and then you just pump sewage into the top, you can just use the sewage for hydropower. You can actually use it to power your city.
I guess it'd be too much of a risk to put a little home turbine somewhere in so you've got your bathroom and stuff upstairs.
When you want to flush the toilet and then have that produce a tiny amount of power.
Yeah, every little helps.
That probably is too tiny.
Yeah, maybe. Just build it into every sink. So every sink and every
but if you
shower has a little mini.
If you get the flow to run a turbine, surely it's going to slow down the flow of water to some extent.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's work.
That's what I assume would be the risk, the risk of actually causing worse blockages because they get stuck in whatever.
You're
needs
taking
to
the
spin.
power out of your flush.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. Assuming that you account for that flow rate, it doesn't matter once it's gone past the turbine. It wouldn't actually affect the sewage system. It would affect within your house.
Yeah.
The drains would be slower, essentially.
Which is probably worse.
Well, yeah, but you could account for it.
I mean, I'm more worried about stuff getting stuck in whatever blades
Well, sure.
might have the turbine.
You'd have to have a garbage disposal system or whatever to make sure it grinds up anything that goes down there.
But in which case, that probably uses way more power than it would take to actually power the turbine.
You shouldn't be putting anything that big down your sink anyway.
All right, okay. How shave talk, man talk?
Yeah, I think hairs.
Yeah, the sink upstairs in our house, I think, is currently filled with beard.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty nasty.
how do you? Oh, I don't have a beard. How do you? Because I shave with a shaver.
Yeah, but where does your beard go?
Well, with the shaver that I have, because then it actually goes inside, and you have to open
You have
it.
a little
and
vacuum type
clean.
thing almost.
Yeah. But with a beard trimmer, obviously it doesn't. It just goes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I spread my carpet sink wide.
But trimmed beard hair is short enough that shouldn't really cause a problem most of the time. It's not like actual hair where it's long.
That's
and
true.
can
But
tangle up.
I do think that's what's in there. Because when it does block up and stuff comes back, it sort of cat's having some fun. It sort of becomes
wants to climb the shelf.
becomes like a sort of black mush. So I'm assuming that's just a mass of tiny little hairs.
Well, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's the hair makes it look like that, but I'm sure not. The base component probably isn't hair.
Yeah, maybe not. But then I can't think what else
It's
it would
probably
be.
just soap gunk.
Yeah. Lovely. This has been a delightful opening.
you want to carry on with
outside or something, Kat. You're
horrible
just
stuff.
Seems like it.
I'm having ear problems like you had, Rob. But
brilliant.
yeah, I know, annoying. But I think
Did you cause it by being an idiot in the shower?
Probably. Is that what you did?
Well, yeah, I tilted my head to one side and water
Yeah.
went in, and then stuff didn't sound right.
I do that all
Yeah.
the time. And it's totally fine.
Yeah, but it didn't clear.
But it's not
So-
because of the water.
I think I did
No,
it myself
no.
anyway. I had earwaxy stuff, I think, probably, and then I tried the whole olive oil thingy. In fact, I managed
Bit
to
of
find a
olive oil.
thing that had sprays the olive oil in, so you don't have to drip it in, which was kind of an innovation. Anyway, so I tried that for a week, but then I tried to clean it out, and now I think I've managed to infect it probably. So I'm gonna go to the doctors tomorrow. And the worst thing is, I've got really bad tinnitus in that ear now. So I was
crap! Yeah, no, definitely
constantly
check that out because I had that with mine as well, but
so
it wasn't
annoying.
It wasn't super terrible. It wasn't very loud, but it was noticeable enough when the rest of the world is quiet.
Yeah, going to sleep it's really annoying, and it's just in that one ear as well. I can tell that, so hopefully it will go away once it gets sorted out.
Yeah, mine
It
did.
better do.
Mine went away when it got sorted. So
Good. So I'm gonna go to the doctor tomorrow and say, well, I didn't want to have to go to the bloody doctor about this, but unfortunately, it's got fucking infected.
For ear stuff, you generally should go
So,
within a few days. So
Sod it. So I'm going.
yeah.
So annoying. I just hope it gets
Good.
sorted out soonish.
Yeah, it's right pain in the jacksy.
Really annoying.
How have you two had this problem? And I haven't, Because my dad had this problem.
You probably will eventually.
Surely I should be like getting that by genetics, but apparently not. I'm totally fine.
It doesn't
Well,
seem
so was I until it happened recently. I've never had it before.
No.
And just this once.
bloody annoying. I don't think I've had it infected before. I think last time it was just earwax, but this time I think I fucked it up by trying to clean it out myself. It's like, no, that didn't work.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends what it is. If it is just blocked wax, then I don't know. Maybe the spray action of the olive oil was enough to keep pushing it in. I don't know. That
exactly.
Unlikely.
Well, I tried to get a thing that would like spray it in a sensible way, like by like that it doesn't spray directly in. It sprays like at an angle in three ways, so it's supposed to go along the edge of the tube, right?
Oh, okay, right, yeah,
which is clever, but evidently it didn't work. I think that's how the ones that the nurses or whatever use work or whatever. But anyway,
sure.
I think I got moisture in there, and then I probably wasn't sterile or whatever. I probably should have got some like sachets of like saline or something to make sure it was sterile and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Saline doesn't really make things sterile, though, does it?
Or whatever it is that you're supposed to do.
I suppose it might. Salt water might help a little bit, but
or something.
If it's made sterile, then it'll be sterile. You don't make it yourself, and it becomes sterile.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, you can boil it.
Technically.
Yeah, maybe I should have boiled the water and then let it cool, because you want it to be not hot or cold, basicly.
Yeah,
like
you want it
body
to be
temperature.
Body temperature.
Yeah. Anyway, I fucked it up, so I hope they better fix it. God damn it.
I found the solution in my case was to not do anything.
Well, that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing nothing now.
But yeah, if you're, you definitely get it checked out to make sure that's the right course of action.
I'm hoping
it wasn't the advised course of action for me, but because they said it was just wax, and I'd been on the olive oil. Oh, I'd been on, what is it called, Optex or something.
Yeah, that's what I haven't got. I think that's supposed to be better.
Well, it's not recommended by my doctor.
Okay.
Because it's like brutal and it can cause other problems. But it's very effective against certain types of wax and stuff like that. So I tried that for a bit. That didn't work. And then I was put on the olive oil, which didn't work. And then I had sodium bicarbonate solution or something for a while, which also didn't work. So then I stopped doing anything and thought, this is me for a while. And then it sorted itself out. It's like, all right, cool.
I'm just wondering, I hope I can sort this out before I start my new job. I've got 5 weeks. Let's see.
Well, if it is bad, like, and you are properly infected, they'll give you stronger stuff than they would to me. Just because mine was just wax.
Yeah, if it's infected, then hopefully they'll give me antibiotics. But although they don't like to do that anymore, do they? Anyway, we'll see what they say. Annoying. So if I don't hear what the hell you're talking about, that'll be why.
Yeah, I think they kind of have to with a new infection do antibiotics, and I think there's much of a course of action.
Well, I haven't had antibiotics for years and years and years. I don't think so. Although, not that it matters.
No, because it's not about your personal use.
No.
Yeah.
Blah. Right.
Blah is.
Yeah, annoying.
So let's talk about annoying. I spent a good portion of yesterday being being handed boxes by my mum with which to sort out and either throw stuff out or recover. The good news is there was some fun stuff to recover.
Stuff from your old room?
Yeah, basically the entire house.
Right.
So there's some old school stuff to basically throw away. That it's like, why have you got this? Let's get rid of it.
Cool.
An old Java textbook of all things. That can go.
From your university?
Yeah. It's like, this isn't going to be relevant. That can go. But the good stuff is a whole load of PlayStation 1 games and a whole load of N64 cartridges that I had misplaced for a while.
What did you find?
Hydro Thunder, which is not mine, that's Zach's.
That's it.
Kind of important. Find Zach's cartridge of Hydro Thunder. And it's all the bad games, basically.
Well, yeah, ones you didn't care about when you first took them out.
Yeah, with the exception of Mario Kart 64, weirdly. I didn't take that with me. So it's good that's been found.
Because you probably played that way too much at the time.
Why don't you like 64? What's
I
specific
never liked
about
Mario
that
Kart
version?
64. I don't know. I much preferred like Double Dash and the more modern versions. I don't know what it was about 64.
Double
that
Dash
bothered
is
me.
definitely a better game for sure. Double Dash is
But a
one
lot
of
of
the best,
people
in fact.
didn't think so. A lot of people seemed to think that Double Dash wasn't as good as 64. But I was like, no way, dude.
Double Dash was quite ambitious because of the way the two characters actually affected the handling of the carts you're putting them in. You know, if you combined a heavy with a light character, for instance, you're going to get a weird handling cart.
Well, and you also had to use a heavy cart to start with, which was also
yeah. But you know, it was interesting in that respect. It felt like there was more depth than most Mario Karts, and all the way up until 8, I suppose, where you've got the ability to modify your cart, but still, doesn't really change how they handle that much, I don't think. Sort of mucking around with the pieces.
Well, sometimes it does. You can definitely make things that like completely undrivable.
I'm sure you can.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Never really had too much of a problem with any of it. But anyway, yeah. So it was, and the 2 item system made for some fun multiplayer stuff. Totally unfair if you wanted to play to win, but made for some fun battles. Just go, what was it, the 7 laps of Baby Park or whatever it was. 4-player, everyone with big ass items, and the specials per character were cool as well. That's a thing they dropped.
Well, that didn't really make sense because then you're putting even more like specific weight on the character selection than past the actual weight of the characters.
But it made it. I guess it made it important. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it, and not every special was unique. There were quite a lot of shared ones. So it's Double Dash was a good one. But yeah, I don't know. Mario Kart 64 is pretty legendary, I guess, in terms of pushing the series forward. Because I'm struggling to think in what way, other than it being 3D. There's a lot of the tropes, I suppose, came from that version.
Well, the power sliding, basically.
Yeah, the power sliding thing.
The V's and the coming out of the
V. Yeah, for some reason. A lot of the sort of design, I suppose, of Mario Kart still harks back to the visual style. I mean, the visual style and the visual designs all hark back to that version. Mostly, even though the N64 really couldn't handle a lot of it.
No, I was thinking of when you mentioned Hydro Thunder, I sort of immediately thought of like the frame rate and like the resolution.
Oh, it wasn't good.
Game. No, you're basically playing at like 20 frames a second or something.
If that, the frame rate on Hydro Thunder was awful, but it was quite. I don't know. Hydro Thunder felt inventive at the time because it had weird mechanics. Like the way you had to, because you didn't. They sort of had to bounce sort of on the waves. I seem to remember always certain shortcuts you wouldn't be able to do on a certain run, and you got more of a bounce if you managed to time your bounce at the end of a big jump or something like that. And so some shortcuts were only possible on first hit. All that stuff they got rid of in Hydro Thunder Hurricane on the 360. They got rid of some of the nuance. It's a much easier game. I don't know. That was fun. The N64 version of Revolt I uncovered.
Yeah,
a bad version of Revolt.
The bad one. Yeah.
You wanted to play. You needed the PC version of that.
Bad version of everything. Bad version of Wipeout. Bad version.
Yep.
of
I found
Racer.
that. I don't have a copy of Episode 1 Racer, so I haven't.
There's an
got
N64 version of Command and Conquer.
There is, and it's polygonal.
What the hell is that shit?
Apparently, it was all right. It was kind of different.
Oh, really?
They didn't really pull much from the PC version. Like it's the same units and the same designs and stuff like that, but they had to redo most of it. And so some of the missions are different as well. Yeah, that's a weird one. What else did I find? Extreme G. The original.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
What about Rush? Oh, do you already have that?
I already had my copy of Rush 20, whatever it was.
2049.
Yeah, I already had my copy of that. What else would we find? Ridge Racer 64.
Oh, yeah.
A not too terrible version of Ridge Racer.
What was the phrase in that one?
Oh, because if you were playing multiplayer,
Yeah.
it would give you the odd position check on where all the players were. And if you're last, it would go, player 3 is bringing up the rear.
Yeah.
But it would say it really slowly and really...
Yeah, I remember that.
Really nasty. Is bringing up the rear.
And it had the classic power slide round the corner backwards, kind of on rails power slide.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's a chicane coming up, you've got a 360 round it. It's the easiest way. And the car will just jiggle around it.
I don't know why. I played quite a lot of Ridge Racer at PSP, which was kind of basically the basis for, similar to how Wipeout Pure was the basis for future wipeouts on the main console. Ridge Racer PSP was like the basis for Ridge Racer 6 and
Ridge Racers, wasn't it? The PSP version?
Probably. It didn't have I think it was like the Ridge Racer or whatever.
Yeah.
But
the Ridge Racer.
But it had boost mechanics and stuff in a way, but it had that whole rails thing, and it was so weird. I don't know why it works, but it does. Or it did.
And they kept it in Ridge Racer 6. I believe that. I don't know how many. What Ridge Racers did they make? Any more Ridge Racers? A 7 came out on the PS4, which I think was just a repackaged 6.
Oh well, that's it then. That's the end of Ridge Racer.
Sorry, PS3. I don't know if anything's come after that in Ridge Racer. They did that Unbounded experiment, which I never played.
I didn't play it. Well, just wait for the announcement of the PlayStation 5 at E3. They'll be like, "It's Ridge Racer, Ridge Racer."
Ridge Racer. But they didn't do that for PS4. I don't think there's been a PS4 Ridge Racer.
No. Yeah. And the PSP version, probably, and 6 and everything, made use of that stupid Namco patent, so you could play like Space Invaders while it was loaded.
Yes, it did.
So stupid. Which is now expired, I believe.
Yes, yeah, and no one's really done anything with it.
No, annoying.
I think no one cared. I learned the other day that there might have been an old Microsoft mandate about what you could and couldn't put on loading screens.
Oh yeah.
Like, so if you wanted a game to pass cert on
I'm sure.
on the Xbox, it's like the loading screen had to have a moving element. Okay, that's totally makes sense. That I can get behind that. But there was something about like loading screens had to have like a text part to them, like a tip or something to read to.
Oh, right, because you got that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, every game, I guess.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was a Microsoft mandated thing.
I mean, you get that at the moment. You get that.
Yeah. It's not a terrible idea, but to force it seems a bit bizarre.
A bit weird.
Because I'm just trying to think to even bad 360 games, right? Like even Sonic 06 had its many, many loading screens.
Yeah, but that
they all had
enough,
tips and stuff.
Like, you read that one sentence and then you're still sitting there for another 3 minutes.
Well, no, or you'll see that one sentence 5 times in quick succession.
Although I'm not... Didn't some of the Sonic 06 ones not technically have text? They only had iconography. Like, it showed you the homing attack, where it's like, press X, and then this happens. And it was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, they had some like press X and then press X again to homing attack, sort of vaguely describe things. It didn't really look like anything.
Yeah, it was like you couldn't even tell what the hell it was meant to represent.
I think that sort of counted, I guess, by these rules. But then I'm trying to think to like modern games as well, and I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are some that just don't do it in that way, or just say "am load" or something. But
like
rather loading.
Halo didn't.
Well, Halo 5.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about Halo. I think Halo 5 just had the wibble in the corner. I don't think it ever had a full-on loading screen. Halo Master Chief Collection definitely had loading screens of this description. Unless you were doing a start-to-finish run, because that was Halo's trick, right? Once you loaded in, you didn't really get a proper loading screen. Yeah. Although I think they do that in some of Master Chief. I think they do break the rules and go, "Oh, we can't stream load that. We're going to have to have a hard loading pause."
Guys, I think I miscalculated on the drinks, and I need a loo break.
Already?
Yeah, wow. I know. I miscalculated earlier. Well, I didn't go beforehand. Right, back to step.
Well, let's talk about crappy PS1 games that I found then.
Do we have to?
Well, panning until damn returns.
Oh.
Croc, the Legend of the Gobos.
You don't want to play that on PSP. You PlayStation. You want to play that on PC. Slightly better.
I never owned the PC version though. I don't think.
I don't know. Well, I think I saw it running on a PC at some point. So one of us must have, for some reason, done that. I'm not sure why.
I think we may have had a demo.
Right. I guess that makes sense.
I assume it was on PC then, judging. But yeah, it might have been in the early days of 3DFX or something like that. Maybe we had a 3DFX demo or something. Yeah, I keep joking that we should return to that for video purposes.
Right.
That or maybe Spyro, something like that, like an old 3D platformer to see like kind of how bad they were to some degree. I quite liked Croc. It was okay. What else did I find? Tony Hawk's 2, PlayStation version of Tony Hawk's 2.
Also bad.
That's a good version. What are you talking about?
PC's better.
Sure, it ran at proper frame rates and stuff, and didn't have the weird polygon wibbling. And I don't think the PlayStation version had downhill jam from the first Tony Hawk's shoved into it.
Or you could fucking play it on GBA, motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, that version. That was a weird.
That was
version.
actually a pretty good version somehow.
Yo.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Did you know that the same developers of that GBA Tony Hawk's game made a Jet Set Radio game on GBA? And it was apparently not that good.
Well, not that surprising.
Yeah.
If you were trying to convert something Jet Set Radio 1 styled onto...
Yeah, it was Jet Set Radio 1, and they made it isometric like the Tony Hawk's game. And it didn't really work.
A valiant effort, though.
Yeah, it's a nice idea, but...
It's like, there's some weird ones on the game, like... There was like a Game Boy Color driver.
Yep, I played that as well.
Oh yeah, didn't we have that?
Yeah. And it was like quite good, but really hard.
My driver was always really hard.
That's true.
We actually watched that not that long ago, didn't we? Like a video about someone collating the handheld versions of Driver. Like is it Driver 2 or 3? They actually made vaguely 3D on the GBA.
Yeah, real bad.
Yeah, real bad. Couldn't quite pull it off, but interesting nonetheless. It's like, well done, you made a tech demo that no one should play. I uncovered a copy of a Game Boy cut copy of Zelda Link's Awakening.
Oh, is that
That's
mine?
kind of cool. I don't know,
it
maybe.
DX?
I don't know. No,
Is it
it's the
no.
original Game Boy version.
No, I had
Not
DX.
even the colour version.
Not even a color.
It's not mine then.
Old.
I think I had the colour version.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
no
had the
idea.
color one.
No idea where that came from. There's a GBC version of Pocket Bomberman that I assume must have been one of yours.
I don't think so.
No.
Neither of us were into Bomberman. That was your thing.
Well, we only played the GBA, but the only version I got in on was the GBA one, which was hella fun, by the way.
Actually, maybe it was mine. I remember playing a Bomberman game, probably on the Game Boy Color, quite a lot, but I don't remember why. And I don't remember specifically it being mine.
Yeah, I don't know. I found the cart anyway. It's a black cart, if that helps. I don't know if that was the thing. Were GBC carts like always black and the old GB carts always grey? Was that a scheme?
Yeah, that might be right.
Maybe.
Although, no, and they weren't always, because Pokemon obviously was different colors.
Well, yeah.
Oh, obviously.
Pokemon is always different.
Yeah.
They have fancy colours.
Yeah. Did you have Choo Choo Rocket on GBA?
I did, yes. I think we had 3 copies between 2 of us for some reason. Because that was a really great version of that.
Yeah, it made sense, right?
I mean, it lacked the pizzazz of the Dreamcast version, obviously, but they then. Oh man, this is the story of like how the re-release can benefit from the first release, because they basically took the Dreamcast's custom-made level system, which was online on the Dreamcast, so people could submit levels and you could download levels back then on the Dreamcast, and they put 300 of them. Which I think is
on the cart.
Yeah, which I think is like 6 times more than what the original game had in its puzzle mode, and just pulled those into the GBA version and be like, here you go. Have as much choo-choo as you can handle. I barely made a dent in that list
Yeah.
because it was pretty hard. Man, Choo Choo Rocket, what a great game! That's dying for a local co-op re-release, or a PC version.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I mean, come on, Sega, you're supposed to be re-releasing shit.
I mean, local co-op's kind of got enough legs now, isn't it? It's come back. It's a respected form of gameplay now. Again.
Yeah, thanks to indie mostly.
Yeah, Nidhogg and Overcooked and
Overcooked, yeah.
games like that. Towerfall, yeah. Yeah, so now's the time. It's Choo Choo Rocket's time. Love that game.
Sa-va-va-va-va!
Yeah, the old Japanese ad. Choo Choo Rocket, more but Choo Choo Wicka Wacka Wobble.
Yeah.
Choo Choo Rocket, sa-ba-ba-ba-ba.
So, that's the news. You have found stuff.
I found stuff, yes. I found Zach's original floppy disk copy of Micro Machines 2.
Or at least we assume that's mine.
I never had a copy.
I think I probably still have the manual, so that's probably okay.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because it has copy protection.
Yeah, manual-based copy protection.
I think I still have that manual. Although not that... I bet in the modern age you probably can scan those and have it show up. Because that was the thing. It was like that weird. It was that weird shiny plastic printed thing that was meant to be unscannable, so you could copy the copy protection.
Oh, you just photo it now.
Well, yeah, that too. If you held it at the right angle.
Well, even that, you could just use I don't know. Have you seen those apps? There was a lens they made for OneNote or something that you could load onto my Windows phone, and it would try to get rid of bad. That when you take a photo, things are at an angle, and so the paper will end up being a bit trapezoidal and stuff like that. It would try and figure out where the paper is and unscrew it.
Yeah, I've got that app. Yeah,
which is quite neat.
But that's not going to help with seeing that weird stuff.
I
mean, it will untrapezoid it, but then you still do have to take the picture at a weird angle to get the reflection.
What even was it? Maybe it was just a big grid, wasn't it? In Micro Machines,
it's just a grid of symbols.
Yeah, that won't be too bad.
Or you just do it by hand.
Someone will have written that.
Yeah,
out, right?
just write it out yourself. Or you can do what we did for Supercars 2 and reverse hack the copy protection.
Yeah, after many, many, many attempts.
Just compile your own list of copy protection by trying every set.
Just brute force it.
Luckily, it was technically copy protection, but it's not like it locked you out. It you just restart the system and then try again.
I mean, that's the problem with getting game protection like that, though, isn't it? It's there's nothing stopping you from just trying again. Yeah. And if the combinations are a known limited set or a set you could figure out, you could eventually break it.
It was marginally harder in Supercars because it used the symbols were the track layouts. So in our handwritten version of it, you had to make sure that you actually drew a reasonable representation of the shape it was making,
sure.
So you could tell which one it was.
Yeah, because some had little kinks that might not have, just subtle little changes that if you were a terrible drawer might have screwed you over.
Yeah.
Copy protection.
Or, the classic manual copy protection. And find this word on this page.
Yeah, I was about to say that was the one that was in my head right now. It's you need to find page 42 and you want the third paragraph. I mean, the entire manual might actually be in the game. But maybe just a subset.
Yeah, probably just a random selection.
Or what was it? I think we've talked about it before on the podcast, but old Amiga game Pioneer Plague had a pretty great one. Because it made it part of the game. So the box had a series of white cards, which were galaxy maps, or wormhole maps, effectively. And then you had of where things were, and then you had to put an overlay over the top of that, which describes the pathways between them. And the combination of the two would create a dot sequence along the bottom of the card. So when you were traveling through wormholes, the game would go, right, you're going to need map A with pathway set 3 for this one. and then you'd hit go, and then it made a challenge of it, because it's like, right, it put a dot sequence on screen, and you're like, you have to find where that dot sequence is in the selection you've made on the card. And it's like, if you correctly guess where the start of the sequence, or you correctly enter where the start of the sequence was because you could see it, then that would take you to the right place in the wormhole. If you got it wrong, there was a very good chance you were going to end up somewhere random in the galaxy, or in the solar system, I guess. And it's like, that's a pretty cool system. You've made this into the game, and it's piracy protection, and that's neat. We played that game for ages before figuring out that's what it was telling us to do as well, because we were stupid kids.
Naturally.
And then it was like, oh, that's what all this is for. It's not just there to be cool; it's actually useful. I thought that was really neat. I liked that. Once we'd figured out what it was, it's like, we're so clever. We're so smart. I'm out of copy protection stories.
Okay.
There's some in the news, I suppose. News!
Yeah, okay, good. Transition.
News!
Yeah. This is Sonic Mania protection. There you go. That's news. Sort of.
Indeed. Yeah. So what have they put on? They put some DRM on that pissed everyone off, and then
so the PC version had everyone's favorite rootkit de nouveau on it.
Yeah.
That nasty kind of stuff that any protection like that is generally considered a bad thing because of how much access it has to your computer. I don't know how much of that is really, what's the word, either true or that the fears are justified. Like, has anyone ever taken advantage of a DRM system to get root access to your PC? For instance. I
thought that Sony one that was on those CDs years ago was like compromised, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
Sony one?
Do you remember when Sony put a rootkit onto every audio CD of every album or whatever back?
Oh wow! No, I do remember that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a long time ago.
Maybe I haven't heard of a recent one anyway. So maybe the fears are a little bit unjustified, but I guess it could happen. Is always the thing. So they're generally considered bad by the community. Blah 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 blah. Denuvo is the current flavor of the month for rootkit-based privacy, anti-piracy, not privacy stuff, and famously has a policy of we will protect your game up until it gets cracked, and then when it gets cracked, you are within your rights to remove the protection if you want, and we won't charge you. Or they will charge a reduced amount for their services, or something like that, based on how long it took to crack, or something. It's interesting that I believe they've taken the stance that it's like, we know this is going to get cracked eventually, because everyone cracks everything. So we'll base our business model on how long it takes to get hacked. So they did that. Sonic Mania got, had this part of it, which is A, weird for Sega, and B, meant that you could play a game with no online functionality, and you had to be online to play it.
I don't know if you
because that's how Denuvo works.
I'm not sure it entirely does, but it was coming through Steam anyway. So at a certain point, you had to be online for a portion of that
some
anyway.
Sort of authentication. Yeah. 8 days after its launch, it's been cracked. So this, in theory, means that Sega will take it out, as most other developers have done after the fact. The last case I can remember was Doom 2016, where that had Denuvo in it, and that got cracked within a similar time frame, I think, and id did the right thing and took it out of the game because it was worthless at that point.
Yeah, good.
So I don't know. It's just a little bit disappointing. It's like Sonic Mania is a fantastic game. Sega are generally very open about all this stuff, and very like, yeah, whatever. We do well enough with our biggest games, with our most popular games, that we don't worry about it. Whatever. They haven't really got a history of being arses with piracy protection. So it's a little disappointing as a Sega fan that they decided to do this. but whatever, it will go soon.
Yeah, it's just a shame because there was just so much goodwill with the release of Sonic Mania and everything.
Yeah.
Everything about it was positive, and there had to be one stupid thing.
Yeah, I mean the PC version was like a week late anyway, so
Yeah.
So there was that sort of slightly holding it back. Not that a week is much of a big deal. Too much of a big deal for me, but I mean I just had to have it,
Of course.
But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. Yeah, just a bit surprising and a little bit disappointing, but never mind.
Cool.
What else we got?
I don't know. I guess Destiny 2 launched.
Yeah, and
Any
we
thoughts
weirdly
on
don't.
that stuff?
Do any of us care?
Well, I was Destiny 1, it was like, there didn't seem to be that much content, and then it seemed really grindy and stuff, and it's like, well, maybe they'll, and the idea of Destiny was this 10-year plan where it would gradually evolve, but then they were like, oh, we better make it Destiny 2 and do a reset, right? I guess that was the idea. And
the
actually
technology the story is that the technology underneath the original Destiny never got to where it needed to be for it to be particularly maintainable.
right.
And like the tooling for how they make levels and the how the engine functioned to put stuff together was incredibly slow and tedious process. So the fact that they kept it running as well they did is kind of an achievement in itself from some of the stories that came out. But yeah, them abandoning it for Destiny 2 seems like a sensible idea, both from that perspective and probably from the business perspective, because Destiny sold really well.
Yeah, which is, I mean, good for them, I guess. I mean, that's allowing them to do this. Let's do a new one thing, which is cool. But I thought, like, okay, well, maybe this is the one then. If the first one fell down, this has got an opportunity to re-impress us. But I'm just not impressed by the setting or the what I know of the story or the world or whatever. It doesn't really intrigue me, which is really annoying because it's like
No,
the idea of like a Bungie sci-fi epic that's like an MMO FPS sounds like a great concept on paper, and all the art design always looked really good, well, pretty good anyway.
But there's something a bit uncolourful about Destiny in terms of its art design, isn't there? It's all a bit grey and brown. Next gen filter. To me, anyway. I've never been totally blown away by its design, if you don't know what I mean.
No,
there's something just a bit off with it. It's something a bit bland.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't think it's necessarily the colourfulness. It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a real world when I see footage of it. Like I guess it looks nice, but when I'm watching like gameplay of it, I just sort of switch off. It doesn't like draw me in like a Halo or whatever.
So I haven't seen a great deal of Destiny, but I saw the opening moments of the campaign being played for real by a friend of mine on PS4.
The original.
And the original, yeah. So I think this was post Dinklage. So I think this would have been patched out to have Nolan North instead.
That wizard came from the moon.
Yeah, so it didn't have any of that.
Right.
Although I think that line never made it to the finished game anyway.
No, but that was the best thing about it.
Yeah, wizard came from the moon. But it was said so deadpan. That was the thing about it. It's like just like, oh, okay, that's a thing. But yeah, and even just watching that, I just immediately didn't feel. I didn't feel it. I don't know. I can't really put it into words. And maybe this is something that like you just need to be in the game for longer to get the depth of. It's got Bungie's like decent enemy AI and stuff like that. So the idea is that the encounters are supposed to be good, that you keep playing it, but maybe something about the fact that it's a numbers game and the somewhat bullet spongy enemy problem that comes with making shooters into numbers games.
Yeah, that's the trouble.
Seemed present, and although headshots apparently were still somewhat reactive. And things like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I really have a hard time describing something about how that game feels that just doesn't seem to click. I mean, maybe it's because I had, having played the Borderlands games, and you have the sort of the same problem there where you shoot at stuff, numbers come off, but they don't really react to your shots particularly. that maybe having seen those 2 games and then them making another one of those, but not Borderlands. I'm just like, maybe I don't see the point. Maybe I don't want one of those.
Yeah, I mean, the Borderlands was such a great kind of template. Like, it wasn't the perfect game or anything, but you could see the potential with Borderlands, right?
I mean, I guess, but even I'm not 100% sure there was much. I'm not sure where you go with that formula, if you know what I mean. It's like Borderlands is its own thing. It's loot driven. It's got numbers. Great. You make an MMO out of it. Great. That's the next step, right?
Yeah,
but then
exactly.
Mechanically, is that still interesting? All you've done is add MMO to it.
I guess. But you could also make it a better shooter at the same time. You'd think the makers of Halo would be.
Admittedly, our time of it is limited, and
True.
the people that have put a lot of time into Destiny say the shooting still feels good, and it's like that's
I'm sure
fine,
it does. Yeah.
The guns sound cool, and stuff like that. There's a feedback to it that's nice.
Yeah, they got some talented people making that stuff.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand. I don't think I want a game like. I think. For me, the thing that stopped me from going into the original Destiny was when the reports of the original campaign basically being very underbaked.
Yeah,
became apparent. It's like
that's what you want to be fixed into, but it doesn't sound like it necessarily is.
Well, I don't know. I've heard some reports saying the campaign is highly enjoyable now compared to the original. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's proper set pieces going rather than just go to thing, push a thing, wait for thing, and fight things while you wait for thing, which is the reductive breakdown of Destiny 1. Yeah, maybe there's more to it. I don't know. We're talking about something we don't really know about, but
true.
Just from the outside looking in, there's a weird lack of appeal, and I don't get it either. Particularly,
it's weird.
Oh, well. I love those Halo games, and I love Bungie's work.
Yeah,
but I quite like some of their early stuff, and it's this for some reason just not clicking. I don't know. I have a passing interest. I think I'd play Destiny 2 if we decided to do it. If you know what I mean. If you just went in on the PC version and Zach went in or something like that. As always, I'd probably just jump ship and be like, yeah, sure, I'll get in on this. Let's do it. But on my own, that's not a decision I can really justify.
So, what else we got going on? Do you see this thing about the South Park supposed difficulty setting thing?
Vaguely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just like a bit of social commentary, but everyone seems to be going crazy about it. But Zeg, you're saying that it's not that funny.
No, I mean, at a certain point,
it's a question of what it affects, really.
Well, it doesn't affect anything, is what they're saying.
Well, apparently it does.
No, apparently it doesn't.
Is this game's douchebag?
So this is like...
that was the thing in the first game, wasn't it? Where you said, what's your name? And you went to the effort of typing your name in and stuff, and it goes, I'm going to call you douchebag.
Yeah, it's like that. It's this game's douchebag. So it's in the character creator, and as you're selecting hair and everything, and clothes and everything, it then says choose difficulty, and the easy side is white skin tone, and you move it to super hard is black skin tone.
That's way worse than I thought it was.
And Cartman says, don't worry, this doesn't affect combat, just every single other aspect of your entire life.
That's pretty rough.
And apparently it affects like some of the social interaction stuff, but also like how much money you get out of doing things and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's both hilarious and horrible at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I guess that is South Park, I suppose.
It's very South Park, so yeah.
But yeah, it's just a South Park joke. It's not actually like, not that impressive.
But then I suppose, like, for character creators, is that actually for people who want to play the game as a black guy?
Yeah, it's going to be harder, and they'll get less.
Yeah. Like who don't want it to be a hard experience.
I bet it doesn't actually change that much.
No,
probably not a lot. No.
if anything. It's probably just a lie.
I hope in many ways.
It's a good joke though.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. I mean, in some like most of South Park, I kind of hate myself for finding that funny.
Well, anyway. It's a bit too close to reality. Yeah.
They should have just had it be just made it a combo and just had the gender be a toggle for difficulty as well.
There is there is like a weird whole gender thing, and but I don't know how much that actually affects much outside of like the opening sequence. But there is a gender thing where Mr. Mackey doesn't know what gender you are, so you have to tell him what you identify as and whether you're trans or whatever, or cisgendered. So that there's a whole sequence with picking your gender and picking your.
It's South Park. It's just obvious character creation stuff.
That would be kind of amazing if that stuff is like. I know it won't because it's South Park, but the simple inclusion of that stuff in some ways is that a positive?
I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
not really, because it's a joke.
Maybe, but
it's positive that it exists, but it's not positive that they're using it in the context of a joke, like everything in South Park.
I guess.
Yeah, but it's called satire, isn't it? It's like it's a joke, but it also makes you think about reality.
You can't say it's basically neutral. It's like you're acknowledging that a thing exists, but only in order to use it in the joke context. So it balances out the good and the bad.
I suppose. I guess that was what. Some people, and I've heard that same criticism levied at Mass Effect for the gay relationship thing. Yeah, in the
it's in there.
It's nice that it's there. Does it change anything? No, not at all.
It's in there, but it's only in there to be in there.
But then, kind of, isn't that the point? If we're being really
for Mass Effect, it shouldn't. It's like. Technically, in Mass Effect, the relationship thing doesn't even need to exist full stop in any gender.
Sure.
Because it's completely irrelevant.
But it's the core of the gameplay, isn't it? That's what it's mostly about. All that shooting is like a side thing, isn't it?
Up to a point. Like, the actual, relationships as in, talking to people. That's all what Mass Effect is about, but the actual building relationships with your crewmates is fine up to a certain point as well. But then it's just and then we've got the bit where it turns into an actual relationship, and that's where that was unnecessary. You didn't have to be able to go that far with any of your crew members. You could have just been a purely professional relationship.
I suppose.
And they could have just trusted you as a person
to not go down that hole. Yeah, almost literally. Sorry, bad phrase.
Yeah. But it's just they put it in there, and then they were like, well, shit, if we're going to do this one way, we have to do it all ways, because otherwise people are going to be pissed. But you could have just not done it.
I'll give Mass Effect its due, though, in the sense that 2 and 3, the interplay of it knowing what you did in Mass Effect 1 was sometimes quite clever.
Except
the fact that all the characters were just
as well, though, didn't they? Because they were
a little bit, because they made too many combinations. But it's after a while, it's just aren't you having that thing with Telly? And, and it's it sort of created a bit of.
Well, they screwed themselves because they rewrote Liara into the story after you. Whereas, you could have the Liara relationship in 1, and then she disappears, and then you make a new relationship in 2, but then she comes back in the DLC, and it's well, this is just fucked.
It's my real life.
It's they screwed themselves by using by not accounting for every option in the base game, and then reintroducing one of the options that didn't exist in a DLC.
Sorry, I'm now confused about Dan's statement. This sounds like an offline conversation waiting to happen.
Yes, well, why did you bring it up then?
Mass Effect 3?
Oh, Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 was a good one. People didn't like the ending, but I don't know, it was a good game.
Well, people didn't like the ending of Mass Effect 2.
Well, that made more sense to me. I mean, that really was quite... I mean, it was amazing ending up until, the actual boss.
Up until it got done.
Yeah.
Up until the Terminator.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it was an amazing ending, ignoring the actual boss part. It was an amazing ending until you actually found out what was going on.
Yeah.
Then it kind of got done.
Yeah, totally.
It's like the whole actual mission
collector's thing
was a good idea.
The mission
But
was
then
cool.
once you discovered the truth, it was like, well, this is stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that.
Okay.
I guess.
What else is going on? There's a HD re-release of Akami coming, apparently, which is
Apparently.
cool.
Although it feels like it's already been re-released at least twice.
Yeah.
I think it did get re-released on PS3. I want to say, with obviously without the cool thing about the original was that it was on the Wii and they used the motion controls for the painting mechanic and stuff like that. And like when they did the PS2 and PS3 versions, you lost a little bit of that, which was a little bit of a shame. But yeah, it was a really great game. It suffers a little bit from being perhaps a bit overlong, I thought, but yeah, no, I think it was cool, and it's a bit of a shame it never got properly revisited, which is why I'm a bit like, oh, with the HD remaster, okay, they could make this look really amazing because of the painterly style and that classic ink and watercolor look.
Yeah.
is
really excellent. But could we have another one? Could we have a different game?
I know. Oh well. Yeah, so there's that. I guess they're sort of cashing in on current kind of Zelda.
To a point, yeah.
Maybe,
it's
cool.
It's a Zelda-y game, and
Ish,
people might not know who Amaterasu is if they play Marvel vs. Capcom. I don't know.
You were saying about Overwatch changes to Mercy?
Yeah, so they're mucking around with Mercy quite a bit at the moment, to the point where they've changed her ultimate. The thing that Mercy is known for, whereby anyone in her vicinity, who is dead, when she fires the ultimate, they all get revived. That's no longer her ultimate. Instead,
right.
they've changed that so you have a single res option, which you have to be relatively nearby someone to activate, and that's just on a straight up cooldown now. That's just an ability,
right?
And your ult has become an offensive, where you effectively take to the skies and your pistol gets more powerful. To be like a Valkyrie, I suppose, is the idea. And it's just it's quite the change. It's quite the balance shift. And it's irritating reading the stance the community took on Mercy, really, and like why they've decided to make these changes is a bit frustrating, because she was seen as a low skill character, which is that's fine. That's kind of what medic roles have traditionally been, right? In some ways, like you could be a good medic, you could definitely be a skilled medic, you can definitely learn to use Mercy's flying ability to her advantage, and be better at it than others. That's fine, but the core of Mercy is you can still be an effective Mercy without being terribly good at the game, which is fine. I think you need a character like that. But the Overwatch community basically kicked up a stink, saying, "Oh, all you have to do is hide near a fight and wait for the opportune moment to fire the ult, and then the real, negating all of the work the real characters just did." And the fact that Blizzard have then tried to address this, I don't know. It rubs me up the wrong way a little bit. It doesn't feel like the right argument to try and address.
Well, it's because they made the mistake of using the Resurrect using the Resurrect. So, like, if you think about Lucio and his Overshield, that's basically sort of like a TF2 Uber.
Yeah,
and that's why that works, is because it's a thing that it's not a thing that undoes something, it's a thing that adds to something.
Yeah.
You're not reviving people who have already died, you're making your next push better.
Yeah.
And that's why it seems worse when you turn it around like that. So it's like they shouldn't have used a resurrect skill.
I'll admit, the res as it was pretty powerful when you activated it, but it was on quite a long cooldown. And using it effectively so everyone was dead at the right time so you could boost it actually was pretty tricky. That was one of Mercy's.
Well, that was just because
it was the key skill
respawn timer thing.
Yeah.
Which, like you only had a small window before someone just actually respawned.
Yeah, exactly. You got a window of time, and if they actually respawned, then obviously you couldn't res their corpse. And the corpses all had to be relatively near each other for you to res it at the right time. I never thought that was a problem. Like, it was a strategic part of the game, and it was powerful, but to use it right I thought was pretty tricky. Personally, because the circumstances don't always work in your favor. Maybe that's different in pro play or something like that, where pushers are a bit more coordinated and the whole team goes at it more. Or in a more organized fashion. Maybe that becomes less true. I'm willing to concede that there, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that's an excuse to go play a bit more Overwatch, which I haven't done for a while, especially now the new Junkertown map is about.
Right, yeah.
New proper map. Oh, they also did the there was another new map that I neglected to mention when I think we talked about. Did we talk about Team Deathmatch? At some point,
I think we
they
did.
added that.
Yeah,
they added that a while back, and they added a new map specifically for that. And the new maps, new modes. I actually think Team Deathmatch in Overwatch is kind of interesting, given that the class. I don't think every class is effective in it, but it's still interesting. So yeah, they're mucking around with Overwatch.
Apparently, remember our PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds? What the hell is that talk last week? Apparently, It's reached 1 million concurrent players on Steam.
Yeah,
which is
I think we said last time that it overtook Dota for a bit.
It did. Although I think Destiny 2's on 1.2 million, so come on.
Fine. Yeah.
It's quite funny, though.
This big thing we don't know. Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 re-release on SNES.
Yep. They're putting out a proper cartridge that will work in a proper SNES.
Complete with a scary warning. Did you see that?
I haven't seen the scary warning. What's the scary warning?
Well, so I guess they maybe to cover themselves legally, but basically SNESs are all old and they're probably going to catch fire. So there's like a thing that says, watch out when playing this that your SNES doesn't catch fire. But they don't mean
right.
because there's something scary about the cartridge. They just mean because SNESs are old and liable to catch fire, apparently. So to cover themselves.
I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard that old
electronics
were... Well, I hadn't heard that SNESs in particular were a bit flammable.
I don't think it is SNESs in particular. I think they just mean we're
it's not
putting
like
out
that
this for an old...
specifically should be stressing the system anymore.
No,
it's still the same game.
No, but they're saying we're putting out a new game, but we know you can't play this on hardware that isn't like at least 20 years old. So watch out.
I think how old hardware typically catches on fire. Really.
Yeah, I don't know.
So maybe an old capacitor could explode or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Doesn't usually cause fires. Causes a burning smell.
And a bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of weird fluff.
Sometimes.
I still want one of those SNES classics. I wish I could buy one.
I know. But would you, given that the mascot of Nintendo, his life seems to be a lie?
It's not a lie. he's just given up his plumbering for a life of luxury.
Plumbering.
Plumberizing. Plumbersing. He doesn't do that.
Plumbers.
He's beyond that now. He's a tennis player and a go-kart fanatic and a occasional platformer. Not that that's a profession. Yeah, he doesn't have a job. He lives off the royalty.
He never had a job anyway.
He got in repeat, so he's got the easy life. While Luigi's busy making money off ghost hunts. That's how this works, right?
Yeah, of course.
He never had. It's like he was a carpenter and then he was a plumber.
Yeah.
In those first 2 games, I guess those were the first 2 technically.
Yeah. Donkey Kong and then Mario Bros. Not Super Mario Bros, but Mario Bros.
Yeah. But then it was irrelevant, so it's just like he never actually was a plumber. Because I'm not sure those games really exist in the same universe, even, do they?
No, I think they can.
Yeah, but are they, though? Because now we're coming up to Mario Odyssey, where you've got Pauline and New Donk City.
Yeah.
And Pauline was in the first game with Donkey Kong.
Yeah, because you weren't saving Peach, where you were saving Pauline.
Exactly. But then, so did those games canonically actually happen before any of the other games? Or is it some weird alternate timeline?
Well, the thing about Donkey Kong is I don't think that was Mushroom Kingdom, right?
Well, no, it wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
In theory.
Hence, I guess, why New Donk City has real people in it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But then how did Donkey Kong get in the Mushroom Kingdom?
How did Donkey Kong become his own thing somehow?
How did Donkey Kong? How does one Kong?
Where is the fucking world of Donkey Kong 64?
Yeah.
Is that the same world as modern Donkey Kong games? What's the...
Oh, what, Donkey Kong Country Revisited, or whatever it's called.
Where is the Donkey Kong Country?
Well, what was the recent one with the...
Tropical Freeze.
Yeah. Tropical Freeze, yeah.
And they did one before that as well. There's been 2 of the new Donkey Kong games.
Yeah.
Which are apparently very good. And we should probably play it some point.
Does the Donkey Kong world, is that just another continent in the same world as the Mushroom Kingdom? The Bean Bean Kingdom is next to the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah. I mean, I assume New Donks, the way Odyssey is now making me think of the world is I don't think New Donk City and regular humans.
Yeah.
That just must be part of the some continent away from the Mushroom Kingdom. It must be all just the same globe now, right?
Maybe.
Brooklyn is just part of New York City, right? It's not a New Donk City. Sorry, right?
I don't think Brooklyn is going to be part of New Donk City. I'm not sure that's how that's going to work.
Well, there is the question whether the Brooklyn part of the Mario the Mario story is actually canon.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's not.
No,
the films don't count.
Or even the Super Mario Super Show.
I think that, definitely doesn't count.
Wave your arms from side to side. Come on!
It's all about Mario.
Also the old voice as well. It's so gruff. Super Mario!
But yeah, it doesn't make any sense, is what we're saying. It's nearly as bad as Sonic.
Sonic never had a profession. Well,
I'm not talking about his profession. I'm talking about the way the world ties together, as we were discussing previously.
I did have quite a detailed discussion last week about Sonic's origin story.
Yeah,
and
you mean the comic? You know the comic.
I mean the Sonic the comic version. Yeah, which is way more in depth than.
Well, and doesn't just cover Sonic; it covers a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah. And how that's because the question came up was why is Sonic blue anyway? And it's just wow.
Yeah, wow. He went really fast and became blue for some unspecified scientific reason.
Yeah, apparently going past the speed of sound on a treadmill.
Yes.
Which is just the weirdest detail of that. The speed of sound on a treadmill caused his spines to fuse together into those big ass spines and for him to turn blue for some reason.
And technically, he wasn't actually going faster than the speed of sound because he was on a treadmill.
Because he was on a treadmill.
He was actually stationary.
Yeah.
The treadmill was going faster than the speed of sound.
I can't remember why were they eventually making him run fast? How did he get fast?
Yeah, I don't remember what
it sneakers? A special pair of sneakers? Is that
would make sense.
And he got fast and then stayed fast as a result of the sneakers? Because I know they were using him on a treadmill
to power something, right?
Well, they basically wanted to control. The idea was that they were creating the Chaos Emeralds, I believe, in order to be a way of just sucking in evil
Right, yeah,
or something like that to try and stabilize Mobius
as you do.
when Mobius was still a thing.
Yep. See, that's what the situation with Mario is. It's like Mobius is not actually a thing in Sonic any longer. So what is the world that Mario takes place on?
Mobius.
Yeah, probably. It was now it would just be like there's a continent where Sonic happens.
Well, apparently, if Mario and Sonic can be in the Olympic Games,
Well, yeah, exactly. It's just Earth.
they're all just on Earth now. Yeah, Mushroom Kingdom's not a thing.
I mean, technically, Sonic.
It's just Ukraine or something.
I mean, that's where
Mushroom Kingdom's the Ukraine.
if you are going to tie it back together, that's where Sonic actually makes more sense because they did just bring Sonic to Earth. Whereas Mario, it's just like sometimes he's on Earth.
He is now, anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Sonic is legitimately he's just on Earth.
He's
now.
just on Earth now. Yeah. I mean, that was the weird thing that also was a question that came up. It's like, why are some of the animals just animals, and why are the other animals like walking,
That's a classic
talking?
problem.
Okay, in the games, that is a proper problem, right? Because
Yeah.
like Sonic's obviously a big blue thing, as is Miles Prower,
Yep.
and like, but the animals you rescue from the pods are these tiny little, like actual rabbits and bird things. Like they're not the same things for some reason. But in the Sonic the Comic version of it, that was just Mobius. It was just like that's the population.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like, yeah.
I mean, that's just how any
And I think
any world where they have anthropomorphic characters tends to have that problem.
sure.
It's just like sometimes they're just regular animals.
Well, yeah, and then Sat-Am took the same approach, as did the. Oh, which one was it? Yeah, Sat-Am was the cheesy one, wasn't it? And then there was the serious Sonic cartoon. I forget which one that was. That was just the world, which then puts chili dogs in a weird position
Because it's made of meat.
because it's made of meat.
Well, or maybe not. It could be a chili dog that's made of literal chilies.
Or just
Like
nothing
it's
but
just
chili.
vegetable.
But what's the dog made of?
But that is what you mean.
Just a chili.
It's just mushed up chilies in a sausage fork shape.
Mate, that's so strong.
Well, that's what Sonic needs to power his ridiculous speed.
Just powers by jalapeno.
Yeah, it could be vegetarian. You don't know what's in those tube-shaped formations.
It's Mo Farah and his corn adverts obviously had an impact on Sonic.
Yeah, exactly. You go fast by eating vegetarian stuff, apparently.
Protein, mate.
Although I guess Mo Farah doesn't actually go fast. He goes for a long time.
Mo Farah goes.
Speaking of Sonic lore discussion from the previous
Sure.
episode,
How Sonic Mania fits into all
yeah,
this.
I didn't really have a revelation as much as I just remembered something that was obvious and I was dumb.
Right.
When we were talking about how Sonic CD ties into it or doesn't,
Well, there is a bit. Robotnik is standing there with a picture of this little planet that we neglected to mention.
well, that's what, at the end, it blows up, right? That's just the end of the thing. And I was just like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot that was the whole scene at the end of the game.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'd forgotten that.
And I think, I mean, judging by the looks of it, it must be just like, this is just, it must just always be Sonic CD again, where it's just like, it's obviously like the bad future of the little planet where it gets all metal and grey and turns into a base for Robotnik where he's building the Titanic Monarch, which is apparently what actually blows up. And then, like, I guess the whole planet blows up. I guess.
Maybe that's only one of the endings.
Well, okay, this is technically a spoiler for you, but it's not a big one because it's basically irrelevant.
Right.
But the ending that you get after the Supersonic boss is basically exactly the same, except for instead of all three of the characters standing there and looking at it explode, Sonic stays behind, and when instead of exploding, it sort of implodes, and then you just get this giant. The explosion is in the shape of Sonic's winking head. Naturally,
right.
So I assume what they're implying there is like time travel, whatever. Something happened, and he escaped the explosion by. So then that also
is this a setup for Sonic.
Yeah,
Mania
exactly.
2?
We're looking at the crossover to Sonic Forces idea being even more like that's how he travels from that dimension to the.
What do you reckon?
Which also
Are they trying
explains
to
why
explain
he's
how?
the only one there.
Well, they're trying to explain how
Forces.
classic Sonic ends up in Forces.
Yeah.
I mean.
Because Knuckles and Tails don't go through. Because unlike Sonic Generations, where you have classic Tails, because it's the time travel. In this one, it's dimension hopping. So maybe when the tiny planet blows up with its inherent time travelness, It just fucks up the dimensions.
I kind of hope Sonic Mania 2 just is like they take the modern stages and try and make an old school pixely Sonic version of them.
Right.
That's what I want. Like. Yeah, I know they did a pretty good job with 2D Spagonia and stuff like that before, but like, wouldn't that be cool in the Sonic Mania art style?
I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does appear that Tiny Planet actually exists. But then of course, if you want to go even further, that Tiny Planet exists on Mobius. That is Mobius.
Changed to Mobius. Yeah.
And also, again with the the level transitions in Sonic Mania not making sense, several of those levels do take place on Angel Island.
Yep.
And so,
like Lava Reef.
Yeah, like Lava Reef, for example.
How did they get there again?
You jump back and forth between those two locations very quickly. Or in a fade out of an undefined period of time.
Yeah, an undefined fade out. It wasn't even a ruby.
Wow. No, it wasn't even a teleport. They should have just done that at the end of every level, and then it would just make perfect sense. Problem solved.
Yeah. Yeah. Sonic lore.
Yep.
Fun times.
Yep.
I enjoyed that conversation because it was nice.
I'm glad.
Well, it was nice explaining it to someone who'd never heard any of this nonsense before.
Right. Yeah.
And that's as part of the experiment. They used these gold rings to somehow help be a stabilization to the evil collection process, and the fact that it was Ovi Kintabor, and but there happened to be a rotten egg in the fridge nearby.
Yep.
And like the fly, that's what turned him into Ivo Robotnik. And so he's part egg now.
Oh, that's where Eggman comes.
Except obviously that name doesn't make any sense because it's Eggman. Yeah.
Just leave the shit.
Well played, the British writers of Sonic the Comic who tried to make something out of Sonic. Because that's actually kind of a good, in its own stupid way, it's the best we're going to get.
Yep. Hey, it all made sense.
Apart from perhaps spine fusing.
It made sense for us, a certain comic amount of sense.
Oh, yeah. When you were a small child, you were like, oh, this is great.
Right, I think we're out of news.
Pretty much.
Stuff, what you've been playing.
Should we carry on with Sonic Mania?
Yeah.
We're on.
Go for it.
I still haven't Chaos Emeralded that game.
Somehow.
I don't know. I found the 6th Chaos Emerald challenge real tricky. The 6th one particularly.
The only one I found difficult was either the 3rd or 4th. I don't remember. It was you get the first 2 and they're quite easy, but then there's a real spike in difficulty suddenly, and then I didn't find it that difficult from then on really.
Well, the last one I did in the first run, the first time I tried it.
Yeah.
That was even though it's quite the mess, there's just stuff everywhere, but the
thing about that level is I never went to half of that level. It's you just do this one loop that it sort of leads you down, and that's enough.
Yeah, I followed the UFO basically.
Yeah.
And it's didn't really take the other routes, and it's that did the trick. Same for me, that one. But yeah, it was the one beforehand I had real trouble with, just because some of the turns were kind of awkward. Some of it was quite tight with a lot of open space either side of the track, and it didn't take a lot for you to make a wrong move and then be like, "Oh no, I'm drifting to my doom."
Never drift.
Oh no, even in the air, it's "Oh, I've jumped. Oh, I'm still going too far. I'm off the course." Especially if you try to make the jumps for the chains of rings, balls in the air. I can't get them. So I've pretty much played most of that game 3 or 4 times now. Except for the last few stages. Basically from Oil Ocean onwards, I've only done once. So I've got to go back now. I've got all the emeralds. I need to go back to what is even that last zone called? Something Monarch. Titanic Monarch, which is probably my most my least liked stage of the whole game. And I'm going to play that again.
I don't think it's that terrible.
I don't know. I don't like that thing in games where it forces there's multiple routes and it forces you down all of them to come back to a central point to open a thing. That to me doesn't feel very Sonic.
Well, no, that is the bit that's slightly unusual, but it's compared to the rest of the game. It's not necessarily that difficult.
No, I don't know. Some of them. I timed out the first time I played that level. You were watching me. And
Yeah, but that was because you got like a sort of a bug where it made you redo them.
Oh yeah, I died, didn't I? And it respawned me, but I hadn't remembered that I'd done any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that's not. I'm pretty sure that's not meant to happen.
No, but I found some of them kind of annoying. Where it's like, okay, where do I go? Like I'm falling.
Well, that's the whole trick of that level, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it's all about hidden springs, essentially.
Kind of
Stuff that doesn't appear until you're virtually on top of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe it will hold up a bit better on the second play. We'll see.
Once you know what the route is, you just go through it real fast.
Yeah, so I'll do that, and I'll see what all the end game stuff is, the extra zone.
Well, yeah, that's
or extra boss.
That's the annoying part of not being able to talk about that, because that was one thing that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about how bad it is. God damn it.
Okay. And I'll definitely do a Knuckles run once I've done that as well. I just want to see what that's like. I just want to see how many differences.
You want to see the extra stuff that is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a couple of things.
I might do it as Knuckles and Knuckles just for the hell of it as well.
Well, I need to do. Well, yeah, but the trouble with that is you can't save if you do Knuckles and Knuckles.
Oh, can you not? Is it just like?
Well, that's what the secrets are on the no save file. You can't.
Oh, I thought they just activated, like you set them there. I thought that was just a menu thing.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's a little disappointing.
I think that's how everyone says it works. I'm fairly sure that's how it works.
No, that's a little disappointing.
But then that doesn't.
Why can't I play the game with the peel out? For instance,
well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's why, because for legitimacy's sake, they don't want to have a save file where you don't have the drop dash or whatever.
Yeah, but in single player, why does that matter?
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I get that for the time trial mode, right? They'd probably want to, if you were using those, maybe you'd want to split them out. But maybe that adds some depth to the time trial. It's like, well, if I set this ability, then I can get a better time. I don't know. I think it would have been neat to have left it in. Regardless, just here's an option. How do you want to play? Is it better or worse? We'll let you decide.
I need to do a Knuckles and Knuckles run. Because apparently not only is obviously Knuckles different in general, but apparently Knuckles and Knuckles that's different as well.
Oh, really?
The ending.
Oh, wow. So what, you've got to do a complete playthrough without...
In one go, yeah.
Well, I suppose that's not so difficult...
On the Switch, yeah, because I can pause it.
Or even so much on the Xbox, like, provided it retains state and I don't play anything else.
Yeah.
Like, and I just go back into it.
You can suspend.
Yeah. Which it does do pretty well. I've had one time where I said, I thought that was suspended. And it's like, oh, you know what? It's probably because someone rebooted the Xbox because the TV part wasn't working again.
Naturally.
I've got to the point where I'm really tempted to just root my Xbox.
To not have your unnecessary pass-through.
Yeah. To just unhook all that, run it through the amp as the TV instead. It's just that it keeps going... The Xbox keeps going wrong enough that's becoming annoying. It's like it's lasted this long,
and your Skanky Connect.
Well, yeah, no, my connector's buggered, but yeah, but the pass through stuff was always working, and it's like, but yeah, of late it's been real bad. So maybe that part of my Xbox is no longer happy. Please don't make me buy an X. Don't break any more.
Does the X even work with the Kinect? I guess I suppose everything it does.
It does, but it doesn't have the special connector. So you have to get an adapter to make it work, to make the Kinect work. And also an external power supply, I think. Because the original Xbox Kinect can power itself off the special port. But I think on the modern ones, if you're just running it through a USB connector, there's not enough power to power Kinect. Yeah, so there's some hoops to go through if you want to get it. My Kinect, I think it's my Kinect itself, not the console, that's the problem in my solution. So I probably wouldn't do that anyway.
Well, yes, because your Kinect is like, sometimes it doesn't necessarily function as the Kinect part of the Kinect, but it's also the thing that's doing the actual IR functions as well.
So I even pulled that into question because that stuff all works. Like I don't know if there is a blaster just built into the front of I mean, I know they've done it on the S and the X. There's actually an IR emitter on the front of the console to make this stuff still work without Kinect.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know. But I don't know if the original one has that. So there are times when the Kinect has obviously not been behaving itself, and it's like, how is this working? How is it turning my setup on?
Well, maybe it's actually more specific, but like, even though your Kinect doesn't appear to be on, it is actually still connected to the IR part.
Yeah,
it's just not the actual Connect part that's not working.
Yeah, maybe. It's clearly not, because you can see it when it's on, like, and you can see when it's like actually doing depth sensing, because you can see the red blobs in the middle of it, of like, oh right, no, it's actually emitting IR in a way that it can judge depth with.
Yeah.
And when it goes a bit funny, it's like it's not doing that. But yeah, maybe. So yeah, well, I might change that in my box. Yeah. So who's carrying on, Dan? Like we both joined up on Mania action.
Who's carrying on? Well, I don't know. I mean, you're both playing the same game, so sure you can.
But we're only both playing that game.
Just that one.
Oh, I see. So okay. Please carry on, Zach.
Okay. Well,
Decided.
I might not actually have much to talk about this time, I guess, because I haven't been playing. Well, I've played quite a bit of Space Engineers. I went back to that. I don't think I've been in since they changed it to be a beta, officially a beta, whatever that means for the incredibly long development process that they've been through already. But yeah, I hadn't been back to that for a while, so I went back. The main thing that's different from my perspective is like they've been going through the process of updating all the models of the blocks, so everything is like higher quality and like more polygons, and it looks all fancy and it looks really confusing because you're like, what block is that? I don't even remember. Don't recognize it. I have to actually mouse over it and find out what block that actually is. But then yeah, only have to worry about that once. And it does look kind of weird when like the classic situation where there's just like, oh, these blocks that haven't been done yet. like the armor block, for example, the basic block that you use to build everything. Like this looks kind of weird and flat compared to everything else because it's just a perfectly flat texture. I mean, it does have it's a texture that's like got little lines and stuff to make it look like there's the occasional bits of panel and such, but it's definitely not nearly as detailed as the modern block models. So it does look kind of strange. I don't know if they are going to update that because I think there was some amount of complaining last time they tried to change the armor textures where it's just like it makes all my stuff like the functional blocks. It's fine to update those modules because they're like you don't use them as much as the armor blocks. But if you update the armor, it's like everything looks weird now. Like the entire outside of my ship, which I like the look of, now looks completely different because it's got this weird texture and the texture interacts with the color layer differently and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Anyone that's put time into customization is... Well, you know what the answer is. You just put a
toggle
or a separate armor block. So do you want to build a armor block that looks like this?
Yeah,
or do you want to build
smooth armor or regular?
Yeah,
maybe could do. Yeah, there's that, and it was also slightly weird that it's something that has been introduced even more recently than the Vita. So I also hadn't seen this, but like apparently it was actually quite a recent introduction. They introduced the mysterious random drops for cosmetic items for your Space Engineers.
Right. A loot system.
Yeah, a kind of a loot system. Just like every 20 minutes or so, a random probe spawns somewhere in your vicinity, and then you can go over there and interact with it, and it has a random chance to give you a random item. And I'm not sure how it determines what you get. I suspect that it might be somewhat location based, because obviously if you're on the different planets, I suspect that maybe gives you a different chance of getting different things. Because it also seems like I got several drops quite quickly at the start, and it's like tailed off.
Yeah, right.
So I feel like maybe it might even be location based specific enough to be like the area around my base now is like I've expired it, and like if I moved somewhere else on the same planet, maybe I'd get more stuff. It's hard to tell.
Or maybe it just decreases in time.
Yeah, or maybe you just only get a certain amount of drops at the start to give you a taste, and then it's like now you have to work for them
somehow
or whatever. Although it's also like the actual thing that's also nice about that loot system, because if you don't really care about cosmetics, is like you can just salvage the probes for parts.
Yeah, really.
Just grind them down and steal all the bits. Although you can't really, they're too big to carry on your person if you're going on realistic size inventories. And I haven't got round to. I was thinking of just making like a tiny little salvage ship that's basically just a cockpit with engines and like a magnetic landing gear that you can just attach to the probe and lift it up and bring it back to the base. Just bring them home and then grind them there. That'd be funny. But then it's like that's probably not actually worth the effort at that point. Going out there manually, just turning on your jetpack and flying out there and then grinding it and taking whatever you can carry back, that's like making a whole ship is probably too much effort for the amount of resources that you'd actually get back. So yeah, that's weird. Get some weird bits of armor. And the other thing that's weird about the armor that you get is it's built into the actual Steam item inventory system.
Yeah.
So they come out in your Steam inventory and you can sell them on the market if you want. Which is, I also found weird because it was like, I mean, I guess it's not actually weird, but it seems weird to be in Space Engineers where it's like, it's literally stuff that is generated from nothing that you can sell for money.
I mean, yeah, that happens. I mean, I guess that's the item marketplace in both Counter-Strike and...
Yeah, I mean, it's not that weird, but it does just seem weird for this game specifically.
Yeah.
Especially because, you know, it's weirdly... Also...
TF2 is a good one, I suppose, for that.
Also, it's like kind of a... I mean, I guess you could argue that, like, you're not necessarily... Unlike TF2 or whatever, which is just time-based. I guess in Space Engineers, technically, you do have to do some work, but equally, it's not in a multiplayer online environment. It's even in single player. I'm getting this stuff. It's not necessarily gated behind actually playing the game. Like I literally could just stand there for 20 minutes and wait for the next thing to spawn and then go get it. Which is, I guess, is technically similar to Team Fortress, but Team Fortress they got rid of idling to some extent.
To some extent. Yeah.
It is technically still on a timer, but you do kind of have to play the game as well.
I think those systems only real work because you can't make an indefinite amount of money out of them yourself because you're obviously the marketplace gets flooded with them eventually.
Yeah.
And some people might be able to sell some stuff, maybe, if you're lucky, but then the price just bottoms out and it's like, I'm going to buy this for 10p.
But it also just seems weird in Space Engineers because it's a completely like opaque system. Where it's like you don't know how rare any of this stuff is. You don't know how often you're going to get it or what the probability is. Or it's not like opening a crate in Team Fortress where there's a very specific list of things and like.
Yeah, the rarity is defined, and CS does that as well. And like there's the other game I'd noticed this in a similar system in recently was Redout. It has a unlockable decal and color scheme system that works in Steam Marketplace as well. So the pink color scheme that I have is apparently my rare one and is worth more money than the others. Although they do go up front and say this is a rare color. But yeah, it was just I didn't expect that from that game. It was like it was an addition anyway. The whole like you can change colors and decals. That was something they added to it after launch anyway, I think. And they definitely expanded it, and then they made it Steamable later on. I think when they did I think they called it the Extended Edition, which everyone got anyway.
Yeah, naturally.
Go Faster Edition, I don't know.
But yeah, apart from that, I just played. So I played that bunch of Space Engineers and went through the pro. And it's so like I don't really remember that well from the last time I played, but it's like it definitely feels like generally more stable in some of the moving parts, like the pistons and whatnot. They just seem to work a bit better and a bit easier. And then apparently they also, like one of the more recent patches also made it so wheels kind of have a default setting, so you don't have to like know in the exact specific values you need for like suspension strength and all that stuff. It's kind of like, here's the defaults. We gave them default values that make them mostly work without having to fuck with it.
And if you want to make something weird, you can.
Yeah. So I made a like drilling rig where like it's on wheels and then you just build a rail under it and it can trundle backwards and forwards to mine away the ground with pistons to lower the arms and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's functional. It doesn't randomly explode that often. I mean, sometimes it still does.
I suppose that's part. In a weird way, the maintenance of your machines should be part of it.
Yeah, it's not that kind of maintenance. It's the kind of maintenance where stuff randomly explodes into parts for no reason. Like I built this whole mining rig thing where it can move along the rails, but then I was like, well, I need to move it to a higher rail. So I was like, well, obviously I could just back it up, use a merge block to join it onto a piston, and then just lift the piston up and then like build a new rail under it, and then it can be on a higher level. And I was like, yeah, that'll work. So I did that, and it worked totally fine. And then I was like, okay, I need to move it up again to an even higher rail. So let me just build another piston, build another merge block, do the same thing. But then when I tried to do the same thing again, the second time, it just wouldn't work. Like every time it drove up to the merge block and it did the merge where it like reconfigured, because you're basically merging two separate entities back into one station or whatever.
Right.
It's becoming part of the base station. Where every time it did that, it would just like glitched out and exploded into pieces. I was like, well, this sucks. Why did it work the first time? Was it just a fluke that it actually worked the first time? But then I found a way around that by using a docking port rather than a merge block, where it stays as a separate entity, but it still works with the physics of the piston.
Right, I see.
It doesn't try and merge it back into one piece. I was like, oh, well, this works, but I have to do it slightly differently. Like, you have to position it slightly differently to be able to build the rail correctly under it. So I found a way around that problem, but it's still very annoying when that kind of thing happens in Space Engineers. And it still has problems where, like, randomly things will be different when you load the game.
Oh, weird.
Well, not really different, just like... it's not even broken exactly, but it's like...
Sounds it.
So kind of wrong in some way. Like, sometimes when you load the game, or in my save file anyway, sometimes you load the game and the whole, like, conveyor system is offline for no apparent reason. But if you just, like, grind it down and rebuild it in exactly the same place, it turns back on. Or you can just reload the save, and sometimes that fixes it. It's like, I'm not sure why that's happening.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
But yeah, it's like, you can't just reload. And the actual problem that I have, which is a well-known problem, and I probably shouldn't have turned this on at all, but like the trees on the planet, it doesn't really remember whether you've destroyed them or not. So if you happen to cut down a tree and then build your base on top of it, and then you reload the trees there again, and then you try and cut down the tree again, and then once you try and cut it down, it becomes a physics object, and it's wedged halfway through your base, and then it kind of explodes.
Trees explode.
Well, your base explodes.
Right.
Like the metal parts that it's wedged through get damaged. Yeah, it just freaks out. It's just like...
That's kind of bad.
There's several threads where it's just like, why are the trees respawned? How can we get rid of these damn trees? And
that just sounds like they just haven't... They forgot to add it to the save.
Yeah, they just haven't made that happen yet. But it's doubly weird because sometimes you can get them to... Like... I've managed to get the couple of trees that I specifically have sticking through my base. I've managed to get it saved so that they've despawned and they don't come back. But then randomly, sometimes they will come back. And then it's like, then sometimes when you save, they won't remember that they've despawned. It's just like, what am I doing differently that's causing it to remember that they've despawned?
Wait, so they were in a world, you played with it when they had recreated, and then the next time you loaded, the recreated ones had gone?
No, it's like I cut them down again, and sometimes that takes it. Like sometimes it remembers that you cut them down, and it saves that correctly, but sometimes it doesn't. I think it was when the game patched, like the actual version of the game updated, and it like respawned the trees, and then I had to fuck around with them for ages to get them to go away again. Because people are like, yeah, you just dig out the terrain under them, but that doesn't actually work because they were just floating midair. Because it's obviously just a location-based system. Which is weird, because I would have imagined that it was location-based on, like, the actual voxel grid. Because otherwise, how would it know whether there was ground under them anyway once you cut them down and stuff?
Yes.
It's just like, or how would it have spawned them on the surface without knowing where the surface was, is essentially what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah.
Like... their positions must be generated once, like when you first spawn the planet, and then it saves that exact location. So even if you remove the terrain when they respawn, they'll still be at that exact location. It's not based on the actual voxel surface.
Yeah, like it's based on the original seed or something.
It's kind of awkward. And wolves constantly in my mining pit, which is kind of funny now because there's just a big hole and all the wolves fall in it. Which helpfully prevents any more from spawning, except for...
So there's a lot of exploding going on in this game. Can you drop explosives on space wolves?
Well, yeah, you could. I mean, if I had enough stuff to make explosives.
You could build a space wolf hole, and you can just sort of...
Or I could just build a gun turret and just shoot them. But it's kind of pointless now, because now the wolves don't attack your base any longer. That was the problem I had the first time I was playing on a planet, where it's like, you actually... And in some ways it was sort of a nice challenge, to actually have to think about you have your base elevator coming up from the ground. It's like, well, I'm going to have to put gun turrets around it because otherwise the wolves come up and bite it. And that was kind of cool because I hadn't really used gun turrets ever before that because I used to play in before there was planets and you were just in space and there was not really any threats unless you went looking for them. Or, well, when they introduced pirates, and then the one time when I had a pirate attack me, it was really annoying because I hadn't got a gun turret online by that point, so there's just a pirate sitting outside my base shooting at me constantly, even though my base was inside an asteroid. And, pathfinding and all that.
Pew, pew, pew.
So, there's still things that need to be fixed at some point. If it ever comes out of beta. Who knows when that's going to happen.
So it's still tagged as early access?
Yeah. This game that's been out on console for like several years. Because they released a console version of it.
Yeah, but did it come out on PlayStation is the other thing? Because like Xbox supports early access, right? So it's...
I don't remember. This was like before that was even a concept, though.
Oh, you reckon?
I'm pretty sure.
Before the preview program, or whatever they called it.
Before the preview program was real.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird situation. Space Engineers is now basically going to be the continuous winner of a game that hasn't come out yet in our game of the year.
I guess.
Yeah, it's like the only one left at this point.
Yeah, all the others came out.
Unless I end up playing Dwarf Fortress this year.
Yeah, sure.
Then that can win forever. I've definitely been thinking about playing Dwarf. It seems like maybe within the end of this year, an actual patch will come out.
That fixes the bugs you care about?
No, but it will fix some stuff, and it actually introduced new things. He's been talking about now your fortress military won't just be for defense. Like you'll actually be able to send your military forces out of your map to go and do missions in the world, like rescuing kidnapped people and then stealing artifacts. Although apparently in the devlog it was another case of the classic Dwarf Fortress devlog stories of weird like mistakes that happened because you hadn't quite thought of everything in the code. Whereas like he sent out a dwarf to go and retrieve a human artifact that had been stolen by a dragon because he was like, oh, if I can get this human artifact back from this dragon, I can barter it with the actual humans for like favors or whatever because they'll want it back. So he sent out a dwarf to go and retrieve the artifact from the dragon, and the dwarf got to the dragon's lair and was like, well, the artifact's not here, so I better go to like nearby towns and ask around the pubs to find out where the artifact is. Turns out the humans had already retrieved the artifact and put it back in the temple, but the dwarf, of course, has orders to go get that artifact. So he just breaks into the temple and steals it. It's like, oh, well, now we're at war with the humans.
That's pretty funny. Oh, I love that.
Like, you need to be marginally more specific in your orders. It's not just go get the artifact.
Go get the artifact so we can give it to the humans.
Providing it's not in the possession of the people who already are meant to have it.
That's pretty great.
It's a very Dwarf Fortress bug. Dwarves following orders 100% to the letter. The classic problem.
Good job, Dwarf.
So yeah, maybe I'll play more Dwarf Fortress this year, maybe. See if that patch comes out. Apart from that, I don't think I've really been playing much else. I still haven't played the Rocket League final.
I was going to ask.
We're up to like 80% certainty that it's going to happen on the 17th.
Okay.
It still hasn't been officially scheduled, but the discussion has ended with it's going to happen on the 17th. So eventually it might...
Very, very lightly pencil that date in.
Yes. So that'll be before the next... Well, on the next podcast? Wait, no.
No.
It's like next...
Precisely in between.
Yeah, the week between the two podcasts, so we'll be good. I won't have to be inconvenienced by that.
Good.
Our podcast won't have to be inconvenienced by that.
Good.
Then we can play that. Play Rocket League again. I hadn't used the van for a while because I've been playing on my solo car. And I was like, I need to go back to the van because the van's what I'm going to use in the actual match. And I went back to the van. It's like, oh yeah, I'm still fine with the van. It's still not different enough for it to matter. It was a weird night last night when I was playing because I think I kept seeing the same people. I was only playing in casual, so like people were quitting and bots were coming in and out all the time.
Yeah, that nightmare.
But I kept ending up on the same team as like the same people quite a lot. And there was definitely like a pair that I saw a couple of times and a few random people I saw several times. But there was like a point in the night where like 2 or 3 I joined back into the server with this pair that I'd seen a couple of times and another random guy, and they'd switched to vans as well, and I was like, I think I might be influencing people. Like I'd had a really good couple of games, and it's like I think they know. Chase of the van. It's the secret tactic.
Secret
It's
meta.
all about the van.
Even that though, just doing it. Oh, it's that van man.
Yeah,
Again.
so that van guy again. I'm going to be a van and show him what the van's about. They didn't because I'm better in the van.
Or at least better with the van.
Yeah, exactly. I'm well versed in the van. And I
Yeah.
just casually change the van at any time.
Yeah, you're fully van versed. You're the vanguard.
Yep.
Uh,
Uh,
So, yeah, that's more or less it. I guess I can't think of anything. I'm sure there's been several other things I've played like for a really short period of time, comparatively.
it's okay.
Not like Space Engineers. That was the main thing. The last couple of weeks, I guess.
Spice. Anthony.
Exactly.
Okay, Rob, what you been playing?
Again, likewise, not a great deal these last 2 weeks, simply because I've been crazy busy with work, so I've not had a lot of gameplay time at my disposal.
We've only got 10 minutes left until we run over, so...
Yeah, that's helpful. Well, so I might as well only, as I sort of alluded to at the start of the podcast, I played a tiny bit of Hydro Thunder Hurricane, because that's on Games of Gold.
Mhm.
That's okay.
But not as good.
It doesn't quite. Yeah, it's not quite what the original was, but it's totally okay. It's fun-ish. It's as mad as the original was in some ways, like the random sounds and people shouting and occasional chatter over the radio of some guy going, "That was insane!" Or, there seems to be quite a lot of those, actually. There's quite a lot of random bits of radio chatter of like, "That was crazy! That was insane!"
Well, that's what the whole game is about.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of random bits like that. And it was, it's all right. Surprisingly okay.
What?
And, but I guess the bulk of my gameplay time has been spent on Nier, still.
And how goes the adventures of robots in Robotland?
Robots in Robotland, yeah. Androids in Machine Town. It's so. I might struggle to describe this adequately without going into spoiler territory, like quite badly. So warning up front, I suppose. We'll see how I do. I'll try and stay away from spoilers, but if we get to that point, then I'll hunt in. So I finished playthrough 1, as I may have mentioned before, and I'm now right at the end of playthrough 2. And it's been different. It has actually been different, but not different enough in the end. Like, it started quite different because the character's 2B, and you're playing as 9S in the second playthrough, right? Who's less combat focused and is a bit more hacky, as is his character trait.
Sure.
And so you get introduced to the hacking minigame, and you're supposed to be doing that a lot more during the thing. And it does have, you can, instead of beating an enemy up with a sword, your main thing is you're instead of a heavy attack, you can hack with the heavy button, and you go into there. You play a little twin stick shooter mini game, and if you survive, you do major damage to the thing you're hacking, and eventually you can unlock extra abilities to go along with that. Like, when it explodes, it's going to cause a bit more of an area of effect so enemies around it get damaged, or if it doesn't die, then it might be on fire for a bit, so it takes a bit more damage and stuff like that. So the hacking actually has a bit of a combat, an upgradable combat trait to it as well.
Right.
You can, if an enemy doesn't know you're there, you can take control of it through the hacking as well, which is kind of funny at times, because then you can create robot on robot action if you want. So they've mixed up that stuff, and because some of the sequences in the game, like the characters split up and stuff, some of the major fights happen differently. So the opening of the game of the playthrough 2, for instance, is way more shooter. They do more of the shmup style gameplay during that sequence. So you're flying around shooting at stuff, having conversations with 2B while she was running around on the floor, combat stuff, and they do a few things with that. My major problems with playthrough 2 is they haven't done enough of that.
Right.
Which is fair enough, because the majority of playthrough 1, 9S and 2B are together. So then you do playthrough 2, and you're kind of doing the vast majority of it again, which is a bit of a shame. It's I guess it is like a playthrough 2 in a way, but like a new game. But it is a little bit like a new game plus. You keep the same player level that you had before. You keep all your chips, you keep all your upgrades, you keep all the weapons that you found. Some of the side quests remain completed from the first playthrough, so you don't have to do them again. But there are new ones. So there are new side quests, like some stuff wasn't available before. And that opens up some new mini narratives.
Right.
And some of them are pretty bleak. I'm just going to put it out there. Some of them are a bit, what? Okay. What's going on? What? And then the music often, like when you finish them, sort of turns to something quite bleak and sinister when you finish the quest. It's like, yeah mate, feel that. And it's like, that stuff's kind of interesting, but like ultimately they all boil down to go to this place, see this thing, come back and do this thing, regardless of what the narrative is, or how cool the narrative is. What you're actually doing is quite rote. And it's so some of that stuff is a bit of a letdown. I'm just going to straight up say it. Like, it's like I kind of wish there was less replaying here, less of that tedium. However, the game is dropping narrative breadcrumbs in a way that keeps you interested. There are things that are different this time that are raising an awful lot of questions as to where this is going story-wise. So 9S seems to occasionally have interruptions where he sees like these old, like a scene play out that you wouldn't have seen before as 2B. Oh. It'll cut away and you'll see this weird like extra sequence. Okay. And they're cryptic, to say the least. They seem to be about what you're doing, but sometimes they seem to be about what you're about to do. And
because
it's like,
what you're about to do.
Well, I know as a player.
Yeah.
But 9S wouldn't do in the sequence of things. And there's a point in the story where that kind of starts feeding back, and you're like, wait, what? What is going on? And why is 9S able to see these things? How does he see? I know he's a scanner unit, so maybe some of it is coming from the hacking stuff he's doing. But like, he's seeing things that you didn't see the first time. Some boss fights, you'll get like flashbacks in the middle of them to be like, wait, what? Oh, right, I'm seeing them a memory from the robot we're fighting in the middle of a fight, and it'll reveal some stuff, and you're like, okay, this is starting to prove a little bit interesting.
A bit different, yeah.
But the problem is that those are quite spaced out because they only happen at the key moments of the story.
Oh, okay.
And then there's extra stuff thrown in. So you're still having to do all the padding in between. You're still having to do all the legwork. And then you'll get to something and then you'll see one of these extra bits. And you're like, but these breadcrumbs, they keep dropping and they're just like, this is what's keeping me going. So it's working. It's doing its job. It's like, I'm sort of sat there going, oh, okay, well, what is that? And there's been a major revelation in the storyline that, let's be honest, we saw a mile away. It's one of the things I think we may have hinted at in the last episode. That was totally a thing. It's totally a thing. But that isn't the hook, because I kind of knew that was coming. There are other things going on that I'm looking at going, but what is that? What is that? The weirdest thing that it's doing is that there are things in some cutscenes that weren't there in the previous version of the cutscene. Yeah. And some of them subtly, some of them not so subtle. But you look at them and you go, wait, what? Hang on a minute. Why is that there? What's going on? It's just basically making me go, what's going on? And I'm fascinated. I want to know what it's doing. It's playing tricks with me for sure. So on that level, it's real interesting at the moment.
I mean, that's cool. That it's changing it, enough to make you intrigued or whatever.
Oh yeah. As I say, I'm fascinated about where it's going. I just wish it hadn't taken me this long to get to this.
Right. Yeah.
To get to these nuggets.
Well, it does seem like a problem where these first two playthroughs are so similar, even though it seems like maybe that's not going to be the case going forward. Or, I mean, obviously, at a certain point, the gameplay's going to be the same, but maybe the actual rest of the playthroughs aren't going to be as.
No, so this is my assumption. I believe the next playthrough I'm going to do is going to be based on a character called A2. Judging from reviews I've watched of the game and stuff like that, I know that there's a third playable character. However, A2 has only turned up in the storyline incredibly briefly. And you see her once, and there's some side quests you do around her, but you never interact with her outside this one occasion. So I'm assuming this third playthrough is going to be focused on A2, which means it must be dramatically different from what I've done before. Or at least have a completely different narrative. It's probably going to be in the same world. It's probably going to be in the same environment. Yada yada yada. Well, I'm probably be going in the same places, but narratively, it has to be totally different.
But the question is, if you're in the same world, and presumably it's not going to cover the whole of the same space because that would be weird. Unless it is going full weird. It's just like you literally playing the same areas in the same order, but you're like, how am I here now?
Maybe. Yeah, I really don't know. In fairness, it was her that dropped the original hint of what is thus far been the major revelation of the plot, I suppose. But so it's I now know a little bit more about her past, like where she came from. She's apparently quite a well-respected commander of the unit at some point before she became a deserter. Stuff like that. So it's like, what was the trigger? What caused it to go mental, or a deserter of some kind? But yet, still revered, I suppose, by the population. It's like, she looks a bit ragged. Let's put it that way. Like,
right.
She hasn't got much of an outfit anymore. Let's put it that way.
Standard fan service.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some moments where the costume design you sort of look at and go, okay.
Really?
in that way. Yeah, just certain things you occasionally...
Wait and see if they tie that into the story.
Yeah, there are times where it's not 100%... It's not super upfront, but there are some unfortunate camera angles, shall we say. Like, I don't think the game is trying to be particularly voyeuristic or what's the word? I don't even know, perverted. But there are just times where it's like, yeah, hang on, I think there's supposed to be a bit of fabric there. Hang on a minute.
Doesn't matter, they're robots.
Yeah, ultimately they're robots, right?
Classic anime excuse.
Oh yeah, but there's one line of dialogue in the 9S storyline where it's just like, there's some moments in the game where they are the human nature of, I suppose, reproduction and sex and all that stuff is referenced at times, and I don't know whether the androids or the machines really know what to do with it. And it's like, wait, what? Why are you talking about that, even in any respect? It's like, what? Which is just another thing that makes you go, what? Yeah. Although I have a theory that the supposedly the fifth playthrough is the last main one, I think, from what I've heard, or at least you should get to that point. and I think the fifth one might take a very anime turn. Just because of little things I've seen. I've got a theory that there's going to be a very left field end to this. You know, a bit like how most animes suddenly have, the last episode everyone's turned into a gun. Or
Right,
something.
yeah, of course.
And it's gone mental. I have a feeling it's going to be that in some way. Yeah. So I think it's a fascinating game, and I'm getting drawn into bits of it that the gameplay isn't really holding up, I guess is the way to describe it. It's like the gameplay itself isn't what's drawing me. It's everything else. Even other little things. It's clever with its. There are more variants to the music this time as well, or different variants. So it's the same soundtrack underneath, but it's got a variation of it. Which you'll get a different vocal line, or there'll be a slightly different riff to it. And when you're in hacking mode, you get a chiptune version of it. So just for the brief period of time you're playing the little hacking games, the whole music fades out and you get a chip version of it, which is really cool. It's there's a lot of these neat touches running through the whole thing. And as I will keep saying, I just wish that it would be better by being a shorter experience.
Yeah.
But I will carry on. I will continue. I will muddle through. I will muddle through to unmuddle what's going on.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it. I didn't really get to play any more Fault, so I still haven't finished that thing. My visual novel quest remains on hold. Yeah, that's pretty much me. It's me done.
I remember one more thing that I wanted to talk about. Because there was another Splatfest in Splatoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
haven't
indeed.
been playing that too much, but I went back in there briefly to get some ranks for the sea snails, of course.
What's the vote?
How it was flying versus invisibility.
Flying.
Yeah, for your superpower that you choose.
Yeah, I'd totally fly.
There you go. It's a classic question. There's a whole This American Life about which one people choose out of those two.
I've had dreams about flying. You know, it's I just want to fulfill those.
That's default, though.
Yeah, I know, but I still want to do it. It'd be cool. I've had quite detailed dreams about what if I could sometimes really stupid ones like living when I living where being where we were in Needham, right? And just walking down the street and flapping my arms a bit, and it's suddenly I'm several hundred feet high, and that would just be my daily life. It's I'm just going to fly to school. And
you wouldn't need to go several hundred feet to get that.
No, I know, but you just did.
That's 20 feet.
It was physics were
Your house was literally next to the school, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. but physics were sort of broken in my dreams in the sense that it wouldn't take a lot. One flap would make you go woohoo a long, long way.
I think that's a very default dream for people.
Oh yeah, the flying one. Yeah, of course.
For some reason, it's how does that even happen?
You have to get kobolds or whatever it was. That's.
I mean, do you think
what was the disease called from Look Around You? You turned into a rock, and it's at least we can fly.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to think of what is the context that your brain is using to create that dream around, and it was would people have had that kind of dream before the age where you traveled more than 30 miles an hour? Is your brain using the sensation of wind blowing past you to interpret flight as a thing that it can sense compared to your body? Just because you've traveled fast enough for that to be a feeling that you know?
Weird.
Shower thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is the wrong section of the podcast for the shower thoughts. That was back in the random section.
Anyway, Splatoon, as we were talking about. I went back in there to play it, and it turns out that I was I couldn't have known that I was wrong, but apparently I was wrong when we first talked about the Splatfest and the mysterious third map that was in the first Splatfest. Because it turns out because I said that it was weird that they used that map in the Splatfest, but then it wasn't the map that they then introduced into the base game. It was a completely different map. Because it turns out that it seems what they're doing is the Splatfest map is always going to be that map aesthetically, but then the layout is going to change. So, like, it was the same, it was called the same, and it looked the same, but the actual map layout was different this time. So it seems like that might just be their weird, like, experimental map, almost.
Yeah, maybe. That's a cool idea, though.
It's sort of cool, except for then, like...
If there's a good one, you want it, right?
Yeah, it's like, if you want that layout, then you don't get that layout. Although, on the other hand, I still technically haven't played the new map they introduced, so maybe that is that map, and I just haven't seen it to be able to know.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right.
But it doesn't look like it from the preview image.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it's the same shape. So yeah, it's kind of weird. And also I played the new Salmon Run map in the end.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fine. It's another quite difficult layout, I think.
I think all those Salmon Run...
I still think the one on the like crashed ship that's just a slope is by far way easier than the other two. It's just because of the way it creates choke points. The other two are much too... like
a bit too open.
Yeah, it comes from all angles, and the new one is awkward because it has like a building around the center, so there's walls, which then makes it even more difficult to see with the enemies coming up on you before they're like right on top of you.
Right. So
it can become quite difficult where like if you get pushed back into that building too much, you don't know that there's more fucking boss enemies right coming up, rolling right into you, and then when they're in there, because they're so close and there's so many of them, it's virtually impossible to actually fight at that point. And that's where you have to drop off the eggs, so you can't even score. It becomes very difficult very quickly if you let it get on top of you.
Splatoon 2 remains the one thing that keeps me thinking about buying a Switch.
You don't want to finish Zelda then?
Well, you have to play
I'd have to play on Zach's Switch, which is a bit of a problem, because there's still no save transfer.
Oh, that's annoying. Oh well, never mind.
I keep looking out for that. I will occasionally search for it, and it's like, they still haven't put it in.
Annoying.
You still might be able to borrow my Switch at some point.
Oh, maybe, yeah. But then I quite like the idea of like if we both had a Switch, then I could play Splatoon.
Oh yes,
we'll do side by side Splatoon. That sounds awesome.
Yes, we could actually play the game for real.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not actually side by side. Probably online.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Because apparently side by side doesn't necessarily work that well. From me.
Oh right, yeah. Where we tried ad hoc local play. Yeah.
But I still want to find out what the mystery thing that you unlock apparently is.
Yeah, what was that?
But I'm not going to get a chance to do that unless Rob gets the Switch or Dan comes to Rob's house again.
I'll probably come back
at
some point.
I'm the unofficial House of Splatoon. Where no Splatoon happens unless you get to it.
Splatoon 1.
Well, sure.
You were the original official
I'm the original House of Splatoon. Established 2015.
Yes, exactly.
Put the sign up.
So yeah, it's still continuing to happen.
Splatoon.
I didn't get on the winning team again with Splatfest.
Ah.
But yeah, it's not like I used any of the C cells from the last round. So.
Wait, so Invisible Run won? Or were you Team Invisible?
No, I was on Invisible. But they lost again.
Stalky.
I feel like it's the same situation that happened with the previous round where the popularity contest was obviously going to go one way, but then all the people who are obsessed with getting the snails tactically voted the other way.
Right.
And so the fights weren't even.
Okay. You mean there's too much Splatfest meta going on already?
Far too much. But
trust us. You'll have a good time because of the according to Nintendo. Just trust their rotations and their time.
I'm not going to give up voting the way that I vote, and I'm not going to think about the meta.
No,
maybe because you
absolutely shouldn't.
Not worried about the snails. It's not like I'm ever going to use them. I don't think. Because I
didn't really use mine until the first one.
You never get. It takes a long time to get to the point where you actually care that much about armor slots.
Yeah,
it's just like just as long as they've got something in them. That's.
Yeah, I mean, I think I used way fewer than I have.
Yeah.
In Splatoon 1, I think I used a couple. Maybe just because I had what I thought was a bad roll on a bit of gear I quite liked.
Yeah.
And so that was the only way to re-roll.
Yeah. Before you could just wash them or whatever in
Yeah.
chunks. The only reason that I'd use them, I think, would be to actually upgrade slots to make a nice looking piece of equipment actually have 3 slots.
Actually, no, that was a lie. There was an alternative to doing all that in Splatoon 1. Was if the item came back in store, you could buy multiples.
Again.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, that's Splatoon 2, I guess.
Splatoon 2.
That's it.
Tune.
Splatoon 2.
Indeed. I played some Splatoon 2, but mostly I'm still trying to finish Zelda. I did a bunch of desert shrineage, which was good.
Shrinage.
Yeah, some cool stuff. But I still need to do that Eventide Island quest. I think that's the next on the docket.
Just make sure that
Yeah, get it done. You'll be fine now.
sure that once you get down to like 3 or 4 shrines to go, just look up a map because it's not worth the time trying to figure out.
Try to find them. Yeah, exactly.
Because as we previously discussed, shrine sensor is not actually very helpful at all.
No, it's
No.
not actually that
It's
useful.
incredibly short range. You virtually always are directly on top of them by the time you even have that.
Yeah. I find
Still
it
useful. There were still some ones that I couldn't. I was one in the ice or something that's sort of half in a mountain that
Sure.
it took me ages
Yeah,
to
yeah.
find. But,
But I think a couple of those are meant. There's quests that are meant to tell you where they are, right?
yeah, I think there
Yeah.
was some clues, or there was a specific angle whereby it was super obvious.
Well, there's
And
the one
there's-
where it's like the white bird, where you have to go to that.
Oh, yeah.
Rito in the village tells you the tale of the white bird, and it's like if you
And
go
you're
and climb up
looking.
that one specific tree and look down, it makes the shape of a white bird, and then you can see the shrine inside the.
Inside it
cliff.
because it's glowing. Yeah, inside the cliff.
I did not come across that
Well,
one.
maybe that's why you found it difficult to find.
Yeah, maybe.
And then, of
Uh-huh.
course, there's the one actually inside the mountain with the Leviathan skeleton. But
Where you
that's
have to break
the
down the
quest for
door
that.
to get in there. And there's a quest for that one, yeah. Yeah.
Wait, was that the snowball field?
One of the couple of times they use that, yes.
Oh, maybe I've only found one of them then.
The Leviathan one's much more difficult.
Yeah,
The easy find one is one where you just shove it and it just goes down those nice channels and goes directly onto the door, and it's pretty much not a problem.
So I found the one that was a really big field, and it took me ages to find the right channel that actually would
Yeah.
take the.
I think that's the easier one.
That's the easy one.
Because
But it was massive, and it took me ages to get one to actually roll down the right bloody way.
the channels are fairly well defined, and you just have to get it in the right one.
I guess.
Whereas for the other one, it's almost a puzzle. You have to block off routes using ice, and then
Yeah.
knock over stuff to make it
Yeah.
make sure
Yeah,
the
okay.
snowball actually gets there.
Yeah, no, I didn't find that one then.
Yeah, you had to use the cryonic stuff.
It was much more difficult.
Yeah.
And even when I thought I got that, sometimes it just wouldn't work. Like the snowball
Yeah.
would just explode on the door, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah,
Come
that
on.
one's a little
You
bit.
didn't pick up enough
buggy.
snow.
Well, apparently,
Yeah.
you have to roll it around at the start to make it a little bit bigger, to make sure it gets big enough by the time it gets to the bottom.
Yeah, no, I didn't stumble on that one then.
But that's part of the quest.
So is that what? Oh, well, no, I guess I haven't been informed about that quest either. Then.
I finished the whole Tarrytown quest line, so that was good.
That would have been cooler if Tarrytown
kinda-
was actually more useful in any way.
Well, it's a nice town. It's just not anywhere useful. It does
Well,
have
and
stuff. Like it's got
Well,
a shrine or
It's
whatever.
shops.
Not a
and
shrine. What's it called?
Uh,
Yeah, the
statue.
one, the statue. It's got a statue. Yeah.
Prayer statue from
Prayer
upgrading
statue.
your health if
That's
you
quite
happen to
good.
do that.
Yeah.
But it has shops, but they all suck. And it's like, there was a cool opportunity to have a thing where you unlocked
The best
cool
shops.
things,
Yeah.
but you don't. You unlock shit shops.
Yeah.
I don't think I know where Tarrytown is.
No, maybe not.
You
That's okay. There's a
probably
quest
might
line
have
for
already
it.
got some of that quest, maybe, but not actually got to the part where you build the town.
Yeah. That was kind of cool.
Oh! No, I'm thinking so now.
Okay. Yeah.
Rob was thinking about something for a minute.
I've got to go
No,
and
I've-
I know where obviously the Desert Leviathan is, but I need to go down there. But the quest thing says you need special equipment, and I'm like, what do I need to
I mean,
get?
technically you do.
What do I need for the heat down there? I don't know. I've already got my normal desert outfit, and,
Well, yeah,
and
that's the special equipment you need, I guess. The heat
Oh.
resistant.
but that's you need that to get
There's-
into the desert, into the Gerudo town anyway.
Well, yeah,
you
but-
can get
but
some
that-
other heat-resistant kit, can't you, eventually?
I mean, that you could have got that quest before you would have been to the desert because it's in the ice area that quest starts. So.
Oh, I guess that's that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so it's just like normal desert stuff. Well, the thing is that you need to take chili or whatever elixirs, or you need effects as well as that in the hottest parts of the desert, stacked up onto your clothing.
If you just have a triple kit.
Yeah, I don't think you do if you have the full set.
No, I did. I had the full set on in the part of the desert that was the hottest, and I needed extra.
I never had to use buffs apart from the armor set anywhere.
That was the only place in the game where I had to use a buff. I think that I found because I've never
at the start.
Yeah,
I mean, before you have the armor sets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to get into the first ice.
Because the full triple armor set is as powerful as a triple level buff food, so like you can't actually get higher than that.
I'm pretty sure. Do you know what I mean? I'm just wearing the like desert Voe clothing or whatever, which clearly has an effect when you have the full set on. But I needed more than that, according to my temperature gauge. Yeah. Anyway, that was out.
If you're wearing the sand boots, that
no, I know. Yeah, I know that part. Yeah, I was aware of that. Yeah. Anyway,
you could equip a ice blade. See if that helps.
Oh, that's a good point.
I've used that trick in a few.
I used the fire blades in places, to melt ice and things. That's quite good. I did the desert, whatever maze.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was all right. Yeah. I guess I need to do. No, I guess I've done all of those now. Are there 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I've done those. Okay. So just a few more.
Get that armor set. Get that sweet armor set.
Well,
the Barbarian armor.
The warrior.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got that now. I think I've got all parts of that now. Yeah. Well, I guess that's how. Yeah. Is that the best?
Well, it's just because it gives you bonus to damage output, so you don't expire your weapons as quickly.
Right, yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
But then I'm almost always full armor. Me. Like just,
you don't need it.
Just full defense.
You don't need that bonus from that actually having armor.
Yeah. I mean, the best buff that is attack anyway. So just eat lots of bananas, basically.
Cook those bananas.
Cook those bananas.
Various banana foods.
Yeah. Mighty bananas. Yeah, that is kind of annoying how those guys keep spawning, the archers.
Yep.
Especially they spawn at awkward times sometimes, or when you're fighting something
they
else.
Just spawn wherever. And it's like, come on,
they're kind of annoying. But you can basically, as they spawn, you can basically just run up to them and then hit them, and stab them before they do anything. So that's quite funny.
Doesn't work quite as well when it's one of the big dudes.
I haven't had the big dude spawn yet. I've only had the archers.
They're much rarer.
All right. Okay. Cool. Well, that's me. Pretty much.
Yeah. Maybe the big dudes only spawn if you're somewhere more appropriate, because the archers don't have to move, whereas the big dudes sort of do have to because they're melee.
Yeah, I haven't come across the big dudes. Yeah, so I'm going to do the island quest and then look up a map and find the rest of the shrines.
Probably nowadays it would be much easier to find a useful map, because when I was trying to look it up, it was still quite early on, and I was like, no one's actually made a decent map for this.
Right.
There's like some half decent maps, but it's not specific enough.
Yeah, it must exist now. Even if it's just like there's one here, you don't need to know anything around it. Just like this is its physical location.
Yeah, and also like it would be helpful to have the names in the list as well.
Oh, sure.
Because then you can eliminate ones that you already know without having to keep looking at your map and being like, is that this one here or is that one there?
Yeah, that stuff must exist now.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for the Saladcast, I reckon.
Yeah. I reckon so.
Yeah. Any new videos on our YouTube channel, guys?
Dead Core went up pretty recently.
Yeah, check that out.
For some speedrunning delights. Well, not because we're playing it. We went in blind. We don't know what we're doing.
Not that speedrunning. Sometimes speedrunning.
No. It's got cubes.
The go around strats.
Yes, the go around strats. It's got a lot of cubes. Enjoy the cubes.
Yep.
The cube.
Cool. Well, check out that.
Yeah. That's it.
And we'll catch you in a couple of weeks for another Saladcast. Bye.